Welcome, everybody. Thank you to all my guests, Matt from Lethal Garage, Chris Freza, Joe from Camaro Fest, and my boy Anthony from Blueprint 1LE.
Hey.
We are live for this all-star collaborative live Q&A. You know what, guys? Really honored to have you on here with me. I look up to all of you. I mean, being a smaller channel and watching all your stuff, you get different perspectives. Joe and I, will probably do a lot similar, although mine's a smaller version of what Joe does every year. But and then Chris has been around longer than I have in the hobby, and look up to Chris and what he's done with the hobby and the Camaro community. So thank you guys for joining us. I think we're just going to hang out and just talk about Camaros and the state of how things are today and what it might look like in the future and compare that to, what was in the past, before, I guess before the 5th gen come out and all the hype around the 5th gen coming out. And then now, are we back to, 2002 again, where, we have a little bit of uncertainty. I mean, we knew in 02 that the car was ending, and I certainly don't know from anybody officially. Matt can probably answer this more than I can because I don't have the resources that Matt does. But
hey, according to my resources, everything's wrong and it's all a lie. So
there you go.
I'm still waiting for an LT2 Camaro.
Exactly, right?
And that LT5 to show up.
Yeah,
settle for a Camaro Blackwing.
Oh,
so. We got about 7 people watching right now. I expect that number to take off quite dramatically. So if you guys got a question that are watching and you want to post her up, I didn't get any emails from anybody pre-show. So I guess the slate is clean. If anybody's got a question that you would like our panel to answer, we can do that later on the show. We're going to go till probably 9 o'clock. And then if we get tons of questions, and I'm going to go downstairs and have a beer and leave these guys here. So, so if you have a question, post her up. But so let's start with Anthony. Anthony, how did you get into doing what you do and all that? I mean, you have a fantastic channel, buddy. So
oh man,
you're a natural.
Okay, so I got into Camaros I guess I could say I was born into Camaros because my mom had a '98 Camaro IROC Z, and I just loved it. And then she sold it. She broke my heart because she sold it when I turned 17. Nice. And she was like, "As soon as I get your license, I'm selling it because you're not getting in this car. It's too powerful for you." I'm like, man, that sucks. So it was manual and stuff. So I'm like, all right. I just go ahead and get my own. So then I really didn't care for the 5th gen body style, and the one I wanted was too expensive, and that was the Z28. Of course, that's the fan favorite car to get. So since that was not my budget, and then when I was in the market looking, that's when I got into the 2016 Camaro, and it was red hot. That's what I was looking for, and that's when I was picking apples for apples for it. So that's the one I got, and I started modifying that car, but I didn't know what I was doing. So if anybody look at my old videos, I'll tell you I modded that car the worst way possible because I started with the axle back. I'm like, okay, it's a little bit loud. Mid pipe, okay, it's a little bit loud. Didn't have no clue about headers. Installed headers. I'm like, oh man, this is crazy loud. I would not want this to drive this every day, and I was daily driving that car. Then this one, I got the 1LE, and I'm happy with that because the old one, I was trying to build it up to become the 1LE. And after I started doing those parts and suspensions, it's like, nah, I can't do that because I'm still missing on that EDIF, and that was a big part of the 1LE package. So that's where I'm at now. That's the passion I have into Camaros. I mean, I'm the 3rd generation of GM because my parents, my grandparents, they all work with GM. Their nice. Siblings work for GM, so I'm GM at heart.
Yeah, it must be heartbreaking to, we had Scott Settlemeyer on there a while ago, and it must be heartbreaking to see some of the things that are going on with all the delays, because the guys are doing the best they can to get them out, but it doesn't seem to make everybody happy, right? So
yeah.
Cars sitting in Michigan there for months and weeks and stuff. So, but no, right? I mean, you know what? You do such an amazing job that you and Q seem to are almost naturals at what you do with your videos, and in your channel, you do such a good job. So I just curious. So,
Thank you.
Joe, everybody's heard your story a couple hundred times, but you know what? You have a premier event. You're right up there with Woodward, at least in my opinion. You're the go-to place. You're the go-to place every year for if you're a Camaro enthusiast, right? I mean, it's a little harder for us up north, but certainly during.
Traffic's not as bad as Woodward over near us, though.
No, of course not. No. But I'm saying, it's got the name like Woodward. You mentioned Camaro Fest to just about any Camaro enthusiast that I know, and they know what Camaro Fest is. So you're doing something, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
We're trying.
So go ahead, buddy. I just
tell you my story.
Yeah, sure.
Gosh. Okay. So I was actually born into Camaro stuff too. I just didn't know it. My dad had a 1979 Z28. He still has actually we're replacing the 350 in it now. But when we grew up as little kids, we go sit in the back, and if you guys remember the second gen, I don't know if the third gens had it, but you had that hump in the back, between the two seats. So we, it was the three little kids, and one of us always ended up sitting on the hump. We would go get ice cream and stuff. All we ever knew it as was the vroom vroom car. That's all. It just made fun noises, and it went fast, and it didn't look like the minivan. But when I got my driver's license, I started trying to pay attention to cars because I wanted to buy one. And don't shoot me, I didn't do it, but I wanted to get a V6 Charger. At the time, I thought it was the coolest looking car on the road. And as I Googled a little bit, I found the Camaro concept. They had just released it. I joined the Camaro 5 forums at that time, and the rest is kind of history. The Camaro Fest started on the forum. It was just supposed to be a regional thing in Georgia, and everybody said, "Can I come?" And it was the funniest thing when we got down there. The lady in charge of the track in Valdosta, she was the sweetest lady, but she really didn't believe what we were doing. So when it was the first one we'd ever done, so we invite all these people on the internet, right? On the internet said they were going to show up to a track. We got there. The lady, she didn't open the concession stand. Nothing was offered to us because we hadn't paid yet. It was all supposed to be cash at the gate. The day of the event, there was a line about 2 miles long of Camaros trying to get into this track before we opened the gates. And she came running over to us. She goes, "What can I do for you? I'll get the concessions over. I've got people on their way right now. Or I got the ovens going." It was really, really fun. So a couple of years in, we traveled a little bit, and then we sort of settled at our home in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And we've been doing the event since 2010. We only took 2 breaks. It's an annual event. We paused in 2016 so that we could assist with the Factory Fest up at Lansing when the 6th gen came out, the reveal. Then we paused again in 2020 because of COVID. So other than that, we've been doing it every year.
Everybody speaks so highly about the show too. Like I said, and maybe it's, a lot of those people that I know were 5th gen owners who are now 6th gen owners, right? So, I'll selfishly admit that the car you wanted is not as bad as the car I wanted, but I always wanted a Mustang LX sedan. So when I got my license, so growing up with Camaros, I guess I wanted something different, but luckily I got back on the right side of the track. So. But that's awesome. Chris, again, I apologize. I know you sent me your bio and I glanced at it real quick, but I mean, I know enough that you've been around this hobby longer than I have. You were involved in Z28.com, and I learned something from our chat last week about some other adventures you were involved. And, you and Joe and you get to hang. I mean, I think you hang out with Jason Port and all that, right? So, very popular guys in the hobby. And, I haven't met Jason personally. I think I've chatted with him in different forums, but,
He was at the homecoming in Oshawa.
Oh, then I've probably met him because I was at homecoming. So, but yeah, go ahead, buddy.
So when I started getting into the Camaro hobby, there was nothing online. There was really nothing like the internet was pretty much in its infancy. So I bought a 93 Camaro Z28. I got into the 4th gen F bodies. That was my first Camaro. And I wanted to put something online as an informational thing because there was mailing lists at that time, internet mailing lists, but there was no like hub for Camaro stuff. So in 93, I started a Camaro homepage, and you couldn't, there wasn't even a web browser yet. There was this program called Lynx if you had Unix, and you could go to it. Soon after, probably about 6 months later, Mosaic came out, and I could add pictures and stuff like that. But that turned into CamaroZ28.com. I registered that in 96. Met Jason Debler at a Camaro event in Michigan at Milan Dragway. We hooked up. He was interested in web design. I gave him some web space, and he went crazy. So we started the site off. And then in 97, we started the very first threaded automotive message board on the internet, CamaroZ28.com, using a UBB software, which eventually we went and we outgrew that and turned into vBulletin. That's what really exploded the site, the community aspect. You can pretty much link back every Camaro site to us that started. We spawned off LS1.com. We spawned off LS1 Tech. We spawned off that forum. We spawned off all these sites. Camaro 5. We did a bunch. And then in I think, was it 2005 when we started hearing rumblings of the 5th gen? We started a podcast, and that podcast lasted 15 years. It was the 28.com podcast, which turned into the Camaro show, and then we ended that after 500 episodes during COVID.
Good for you.
My good buddy Jason, he moved to Tennessee. We were doing the show for at least 5 years remote, and we just lives and everything got in the way, so we ended that. I'm still very active in the Camaro community. And then in 2019, me, Jason, and a good buddy of mine named Manny, we started this little website called Cars and Trucks. And the first article we posted was the demise of the Camaro. And everybody was like, who are these people? This has no relevance. No, there's no way the Camaro's going away, and we have been building our audience and our journalistic prowess since then, and it's been a fun venture. I'm a back end guy. I'm social media. We have a team of writers, and Manny is a journalist. He's a phenomenal person to run this. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years, kind of behind the scenes.
That's very cool. And I know for us, you can probably even add us to your spinoff, because we started out probably unofficially in '99. We launched our site in 2000 when we launched the club officially in 2000, and then we used a smaller version site, but we were always on thirdgen.org, CamaroZ28.com, LS1, all the names you mentioned, right? We were all on those, and then we made the decision to have a forum board in 2001, I guess 01. Well, we started it on an MSN page. Before we got our actual website, right? So
it was fun back then. Scott Settlemeyer would hide on our site, and he was Red Planet, because he was from Mars, Pennsylvania, so he called himself Red Planet. on all the message boards, and everybody be like, this guy knows a little bit too much, or he would like debunk some rumors or whatnot. Good old Scott. And then eventually when GM didn't care about him posting and stuff like that, that's when he actually used the F-Bodfather name. Or
I know real quickly. I mean, with us, I think the first opportunity, and I had met Scott at the Camaro Nationals and stuff up here in the OCC Nationals. And then I finally got the opportunity to get Scott to come to our show, and that was our 10th show. And honestly, I'd felt like the president had arrived at our show. Like, I was so nervous. I have no idea why, because I'm not intimidated by important people, because they put their pants on the same way we all do, right? But Scott had meant so much to our community and done so much for our community. I was like I said, I literally thought the president had showed up when Scott showed up to our show. We went out for dinner and we had a great discussion about, the car and this and that. And I'm like, I don't know how you keep it all together inside that head of yours, because it just blew me away, the stuff we were talking about, right? So
yeah,
that is very cool, Chris. You know what? Honestly, I know, like I said, we've probably met once at the homecoming. But you're a lifer like me, and again, I really appreciate you being on here with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Lethal Garage. I'm interested to hear this one, buddy.
I'm probably the baby of the group in this regard. So, my story. Well, I grew up in a family where my dad was a Mustang fan.
Nice.
I converted him, by the way.
Yes.
And that was fun. No, I mean, I've always been a Camaro fan as far back as I can remember. My very first car I ever purchased was a 1969 original Z28. Had no pink slip, unfortunately. And out here in California, that's like, you should never have bought that car. Ended up selling that car to a collector. Didn't know any better. I wasn't like crazy Camaro Matt at that point. I knew I loved Camaros. I loved the way they looked and was always interested in them. But never really had the means. I didn't really make a lot of money up until after college, and I actually started real work instead of those fast food jobs or whatever else we do in life, to get to where we ultimately get to. But my same as you guys, my very first, it was I forget. I mean, kind of fast forwarding, but life circumstances put us in a point where we became a one-car family for many years, and we had 2 kids at the time and one on the way. And it was like, I had just gotten a new job, and it was like, I can go buy a Civic or I can go buy a 2013 Camaro V6 for the same price, and I can get into a Camaro. Like, I've always wanted a Camaro. I really liked the way those cars look. Lucky for me, 13 was the first year they updated the radio to the big fancier screen that everybody wanted. And
MyLink.
MyLink. And as many of you guys know, like, I wanted a ZL1, I wanted an SS, but I could not afford it, not at that point in life. I mean, it's funny because like 2013 wasn't that long ago, but
It wasn't.
But that's just where I was in life. And that was the car I had for a couple of years and loved it to death. I put a ZL1 front end, caused heresy, made everybody hate me. But still to this day, I'll contest the ZL1 front end is the best looking front end of the 5th gen. And if you disagree, that's fine. You could disagree. But and then I, in my heart, I guess you could say, like, I always wanted a 2nd gen Z28. Love the way a Z28 RS. Sorry, I have to clarify there because there is a big difference. Always wanted one. Always dreamed like maybe me and my dad can build a car together. My dad kind of had rumblings or talks about potentially building a car together when I was younger. But life circumstances never allowed that to happen for him and I. And so now fast forward, I got my 6th gen Camaro, obviously, went a little crazy with that, went through the whole rigmarole of street car to drag race car, and decided, what, like, as soon as those muscle car and truck article came out, I was like, what, maybe I should go buy that 2nd gen. No, that's not when that happened. But, the stars aligned for me. Work started going really well. Everything was going really well. And I was like, you know what? We have 3 kids, 1 on the way. If I don't build a car now, I probably never will, or it won't be until like I'm a lot older. And so I purchased my 2nd gen Camaro 1971. It started life as a standard and decided to do kind of like a pro touring setup. And that made me laugh when Joe was starting to talk about that center hump in the back seat, because I'm like, I know that hump now. So kind of, as I guess I kind of jumped around a lot there, but as rumors and conversation has come out around the Camaro dying or going away again or whatever the heck GM's doing, and I just want to put it on record, GM has stated nothing yet of what's going to happen to the Camaro.
Nope.
Does it mean that the Camaro is going to live on? I have no idea, to be honest, right this moment. But GM, I don't even know if GM knows if the Camaro is going to live on in any which way. But I do know they have a lot of stuff on the shelf that they could pull from if they want to, you know, surprise us all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But that being stated, you know, it's hard not to get frustrated or sad about something you love and pour your heart and soul into, being a nameplate called a Camaro, you know, going away. And I was like, well, what's the best way I can keep that alive for me? And to me, it was going back to the things I wanted to do on older Camaros that existed before I was alive. And so I really started diving into a 2nd gen. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but almost done with my first one. And I'm psycho enough to start a 1970 that I just purchased for my son for his first car. So it's to say I'm a Camaro diehard, maybe not in terms of years, but in terms of spending money, I'm getting up there. So I love Camaro. You know, my ultimate goal, and most people know me from my YouTube channel or Instagram, it was never to become famous. It was never to become a big name. I just wanted to be helpful. And like Joe, like I created a show actually inspired by Camaro Fest, because they're not out west, you know. And so I created a show called Camaro Con, which we did 3 years of it. And once I decided to try to become like a Camaro Fest, I realized I tried to bite something off much bigger than I can chew. And I financially wasn't ready to take that on, and especially if the show didn't succeed. And so I just kind of had to put it on the back burner. I got 6 kids at home now, so it's family first. I can't put us financially in a situation that, you know, as much as I love creating an environment that draws people together for a hobby that we all love, it, you know, I had to put it on the back burner. So
of course, the family has to come first.
yeah.
You know.
And so I have mad respect for Joe and his team and what they've done at Camaro Fest. It's probably like my wife and kids constantly are asking, hey, are we going back to Kentucky? And it seems like we have kids. Like our baby girl was due the week that Camaro Fest was this year. So that's why we couldn't make it out this year. But it's like, it's become like my family is like, are we going across the country? Because we're in California. It's like, we're going to this show. It's like, I've met so many people on Camaro5and6.com. And through all of this, it's like, it's a great reunion going to your show, because I just get to see so many of these people that are just diehard fans, and it's 100% worthwhile. So if that's not a plug for Camaro Fest, make sure to make it out there if you guys haven't been yet, because it's a fun show, and you will meet some of the coolest Camaro people that exist.
The parking lot parties are the best.
They are. So definitely get there a day early, and definitely plan to stay all night and bring your favorite hard alcohol, and don't drink and drive.
And bring your umbrella. Bring your umbrella too, because it seems to rain at least like once.
Oh, God. But Joe, like seriously, July, it hurts. This California soul is so hot.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned meeting people and having like a reunion, because it's still happening. We've been doing this. This is the 12th year we're going to be doing it, and every year it happens. But the first few years, it was huge. You go there, you see all these people, you see all their cars. Sometimes you recognize the car, but almost always you go up to somebody and go, "Are you HBK 325?" And they're like,
heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know when we started doing indoor shows, we had the same problem, right? We all went by usernames, right? So it's funny if that's who I think that is, Scott Davis in chat there. If it's Scott that I think it is, which I believe it is, Scotty's one of my former vice presidents and very good friend. We when we started doing indoor shows, we had a supplier that would make plates up here, plastic plates, called Plate Maker, and he's still in business. He does a phenomenal job making replica plates. So we went and had plates made for all the cars in the booth with our usernames on them. So if somebody come up and went, "Oh, there's this car. We just got to find him now," right? But yeah, I mean, most of us went by usernames, right? We didn't go by our first name. So it's funny that you said that, Joe. So, and it's funny, Matt, you say you're the youngest, but, I think certainly in my opinion, you've carved a spot in the community like the rest of these guys. Same with Anthony, right? You and Anthony have carved a spot in the community, in the hobby, that is well deserved, right? You guys obviously have great channels. You guys put out great content and, it's good to see different perspectives, certainly with Matt, with having the second gen and then having Lethal, right? And then Anthony that does everything with his car, right? It's really, really good to see. Really good to see.
And just to chime in real quick, I know I mentioned Joe, but Chris, I was like a little schoolgirl when Chris and doing your podcast, they reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to come on their podcast. I'm like, what? Going around ran downstairs. I'm like, babe, guess what? A Camaro podcast wants to interview me.
It's funny because we're all colleagues. I mean, I've had Joe and Matt both on the Camaro show numerous times. And it's all about getting that information out to the Camaro community, and that's,
it was seriously an honor.
Those tools, I'm going to use those tools.
And it's like I came to the Camaro community so late. A lot of what you guys had touched or been a part of already existed, so I benefited from a lot of information you guys really helped create, especially you, Chris, and. That being stated, it was like I can't even tell you how many backlog podcasts I was listening to. I'd be sorting through your guys' playlist of all the titles and stuff, looking for things that I was interested in and titles. Sure. Because I mean, as much as I watched the 5th gen release and all the Transformer junk and all that stuff, from the outside, I didn't have a Camaro at that time. So I was an outsider on the fence looking in at all the fun stuff you guys were doing. And, Google at that time, Google search actually was a thing, and it's like I could easily find stuff very quickly, right. Especially the 5th gen. And for me, and I mentioned it earlier, I created my channel just to create guides so people didn't have to go to a shop to install stuff. It's like cold air intakes for everyone here. Anybody could install one, but there was a time in my life where I'd be like, I have no idea what I need to do to install that. What the hell's a MAF sensor? And all this kind of crap. And it's in a way, so many people had invested in me and taught me everything about car stuff. Right. And I still am learning, just to throw that out there. I'm an internet mechanic by all means. Yeah. And it's how can I help people? And even if I don't know, I would still make a video, but try to at least educate myself. So then it's I'm learning, and then I can help maybe pass along on a platform that had people. And it's I never expected to gain 70,000 subscribers out of it. Never. Even to this day, it still boggles my mind. But I watch my old videos and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is the quality video I put up there. And I think they've gotten better over the years. I hope, but for anybody watching the old Lethal Camaro, where I introduced myself as Sledgehammer 70 or whatever, that content.
That's who I remember you as.
Because that was my online handle everywhere for years, because I came from the gaming background, and so it's
because that's still your Twitter handle, isn't it?
It is still my Twitter handle. But yeah, it's I just wanted to help people, and hopefully my content has done that. I know Chris's content definitely has. I know because of what Joe has created, I've met more people and been able to kind of improve my channel because of it. So, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't worked with you directly, Blueprint, and same with you, Mark, like, but it's crazy to think, like, because of the Camaro community, it's where we are where we are, and I am where I am or have gotten to, I people are like, oh, you're Camaro famous. I'm like, what? No, I'm just a Camaro hobbyist, like just like anyone else. I just was brave enough to put my ugly face on a camera.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, Matt's on a mission to 100,000. We're going to get him that silver plaque. So if you're watching and you're not part of Lethal Garage, make sure you go and subscribe. All the channels for all these guys are in the description. But let's get Matt to 100K so we can get him that silver plaque and watch him celebrate.
It's crazy. Like, I took such a huge hiatus, and it's like this last 2 months on YouTube, the channel's grown faster than it ever has. I don't know why.
The algorithm loves you right now. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I guess it's ever since I started just doing those news pieces, and it's like people just like news. They want to gossip about stuff. I never thought car guys like to gossip, but I guess we do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the Camaro community, us watching each other and stuff like that, but GM has been watching us too. And I can tell you this for a fact, because back in 2004, 2005, when they started talking about the 5th generation, and then when they showed the silver concept here in Detroit, the following summer, me and Jason Debler were invited out to Milford to drive that concept on Milford Proving Ground. That's where I first met Al. It was speed limited to like 30 miles an hour, and Al the whole time was going, Chris, give him more gas, it'll go. They're like, this is like a multi-million-dollar concept. I was afraid to break it, but that was the beginning of GM starting the Disciple program. So the following summer after that, they used to have this old forum. I can't remember what the name of it was, but GM had their own forum. Right. And on that forum, what they did was they said, we want to start this program for you guys to give us input on this car we're going to be building, the new Camaro. So people submitted their like resumes and whatnot. And my buddy Jason was part of that. And a lot of their thumbprints were all over the 5th generation car. I really, really, really wish that they would have continued that when they moved to the 6th generation, because there's a few things I believe would have never happened on the 6th generation had the Camaro disciples still been advising Chevrolet and the Camaro team.
Yeah. It was certainly good to see, to have all those people's different perspectives, right? I think, what was there, Chris? There was 12 of them, 11, 12, 13?
Yeah, there were 12. There was 12 disciples. I think there was maybe even like 13. I think they.
I thought Scott used to introduce them as 12
disciples, of which there are 13 or something
like
that.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were a mix of men and women, right? Mm-hmm.
From all over the country and Canada, U.S.
Yeah.
It was varying levels of Camaro interest as well. It wasn't
right.
12, 13 of them were not diehards.
No.
Right. Yeah. So I think, I mean, you're right, Chris. I think that had some of that carried over onto the 6th gen. I mean, there was so much hype on that 5th gen car when it come out. I mean,
there was so much pent up demand. I mean, when the car went away in 2002, and before the car came back in 2009 as the 2010 model year, I mean, they went Transformers, pretty much pushed that car just to levels of stardom that we haven't seen.
Free marketing. It was the only marketing GM ever did for that car.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of giving cars away at baseball games or whatever.
Yeah. They did a couple Super Bowl commercials, but other than that, I mean, we as a collective group were the ones selling the cars.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember 08. Was it 08? a bunch of us were excited because we were standing around a plastic shell that looked like a Camaro. It was. Remember that, Chris?
Yep.
At the Toronto Auto Show, we were like beside ourselves because we thought we had arrived because GM let us go down and circle around this plastic shell of a vehicle because that silver pre-production car wasn't finished yet or was in Detroit or something. But yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff, right? So, we got a couple comments here, some questions. Let's see. Couple shout outs from Canada, MJ and SN. Welcome, guys. Where's the dollar? 2022 model year sales. Anyone know?
Yeah, so basically what you can do is you can go to Chevrolet's site and there's a media section on there. And if you go to the media section, they have all of the sales for all of their vehicles marked down by quarter. They used to do monthly, but then they moved to quarterly. So you can go and you can see them all right there.
Is that media?
I think it's still delayed. I think that data is delayed by a quarter. So I think they have Q1, Q2 currently. We're waiting for Q3 data.
Gotcha. Yes, media.chevrolet.com.
You can also get really fancy photos for your thumbnails there too.
Yep. You sure can.
Is that the media.gm site?
That's the larger page.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I pull a lot of stuff off there for videos and stuff.
The media, if you just type in GM press room, it'll bring you to.
Oh yeah.
You could literally go. I think it goes all the way back to like 2014 or longer.
Right.
They show deliveries.
Hey, Mark and guys, I read that there are Camaros being built without hood insulation and no idea if it will be retrofitted. I already own one and should I be a buyer? As a buyer, should be concerned.
Just what my car has no insulation on the hood. It's fine.
Yeah, I took mine.
Mine has insulation.
It's weight savings.
The 2022s have them. I know I got a question about the ZL1s, but I think no ZL1s come with insulation, right? I think that's out the factory. Yeah,
it's that big. Joe, pop your hood.
I
think it's just that big plastic piece that's bolted up. Because I know a lot of guys, the first thing they did were like, I'm unbolting this big plastic thing underneath my hood. And then they realized, like, wait a minute, I can't unbolt this big plastic thing underneath my hood.
Yeah, right.
It's funny. I remember, Chris, do you remember at the homecoming for, there was like 3 different parties going on at the homecoming, but we went to Hilton's BBOMG party.
Oh, yeah.
And they auctioned off a hood. They auctioned off a hood liner there.
Yep.
Signed by Team Camaro in Oshawa. And I forget how many thousands of dollars they brought in for all the stuff they auctioned off.
Shout out Mike Judge. Mike Judge was the man. He made all of that stuff happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome.
So, I don't know, a bit of a difference, but, you might want a hood liner. It could be worth something someday if you can get it autographed, right?
Yeah, they did say that they'll be retrofitting them, but of course nobody knows when or how.
Right. I don't know. I think it's probably more about noise. I mean, I remember back in the day we used to pull the rear seals off the edge of the hood that faces the windshield because it let more air out and sucked more air in, right? So I don't know how important it is.
Who doesn't want to hear their motor?
Right. So why would you want a hood liner, right? So
honestly, that's why I probably put a cold air intake on my car, not because of like, oh, it's going to.
I was about to say that too.
I was like, oh, I can hear the air getting sucked in.
Yeah, Matt is like the number one reason for me to get a cold air intake because I was like, what is this weird thing underneath it when I had my 16? I'm like, this is stupid. And then he said, oh, it's a sound to delete. I'm like, what is that? Like.
It's actually pretty amazing how quiet car manufacturers have gotten V8s to be under their hoods. Like even GM, like that big rubbery, crazy cold air intake, you take that off and replace it with anything. And it's like, holy cow, it actually sounds like a motor again. And that desire, and maybe Joe, you can speak to this, or you guys have been around like the older cars with actual big air cleaners sitting on top of the motors or with carburetors, like I put exhaust on my 71, just a week ago. and I can hear that air getting sucked through that air cleaner into that big old Holley 950, and I'm like, that's a sound I didn't know my LS7 can make.
Yeah, like you said, if you get an intake on and it's the old carburetors, it's that whoosh. If you listen really close, as soon as you hit the throttle, you hear this like sucking noise. Yeah. Do that again, Matt. What was that? Like?
I'm real good at sucking things, you know.
But the other thing about the older cars, and I kind of miss it, right? So with all this electric stuff going on, noises are going to change. But the old cars had belt-driven fans, or like crank-driven. When you revved the engine, you didn't really. You heard the fan. It was this really cool, just howling noise coming out, and you hit it. Your shins felt it underneath the car. I always liked that.
Yeah, stupid electric fans ruining everything.
Efficiency.
Scott's got also, it sounds like Ford is dropping a potential hybrid Mustang. Any chance this helps Camaro? Also adding the Challenger will be gone.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Camaro and Challenger are both going to be gone.
That's bad too. Cause
it's hard to sit back. I don't think GM wants to kill the nameplate. And at the end of the day, as much as like I see guys always harp on Mary Barra and all that, like Mary's a Camaro fan. She has a first gen Camaro, to my understanding. I could be wrong there, but I know she likes the Camaro. Now, at the end of the day, she's a CEO of a company that needs to make profit that speaks to its shareholders, right? So, and it's frustrating that, you know, it's like you almost wish GM was its own company, not traded on the marketplace, because then they could just go do what they want. They don't have to answer nobody, and they can have fun. But
when we were allowed to interview Mary Barr at the New York Auto Show, remember that, Joe?
I do.
That was my question to her it was before she was CEO. I asked her, I said, Mary, what's your favorite car on the port? And she, it's the Camaro. That's her favorite car. That was her first car she ever ordered, and then ended up having to cancel it because she couldn't afford it. And then what did she say? She bought a Chevette.
Something terrible and sad.
Yeah, and then she went to work. She went to work in Pontiac, and she was building Fieros. That's what she was doing.
Oh man!
But she's a Camaro person at heart.
All three of them are all car people, to my understanding. I mean, Scott and Mark and
Mark. Is it
Roos?
I can always pronounce his last name. Yeah,
Royce.
I know he's a Camaro guy now, but I think he's more of a Camaro track guy. And I honestly think a lot of the 6th gen team was Camaro track guys.
Absolutely.
And that's why we got the car that's sitting behind Joe right there. Is, you know, they developed an amazing platform and were able to get the Camaro nameplate on there. I mean, the platform was originally designed for the Cadillac, right? But it almost, I always wonder, like, when they designed that platform, did they kind of sit back and go, hey, we're going to design this, but we're going to use it for this, and this? You know, it's like, was the Camaro part of that discussion in designing that? Like, I'd love to sit down with Al one day. I don't think he ever will. I honestly think GM hates me because I break
You're
real.
not alone, Matt. I think I'm right up there with you.
I don't know. Like the first time I ever met Al was actually in LA at it was after the 6th gen reveal, because I didn't get tickets. I tried so hard to get tickets. I was going to go to that reveal and didn't. Actually, you know, I got all the reveal stuff off your buddy Chris. I bought it off him on eBay. So I put 10 stuff that I went. I forgot to go. But got to meet Al there. He signed my 5th gen because he came out and checked out. Like, they had like a little car show. Like, there was a ton of Camaro people there, and that was my first viewing of the 6th gen. And then when after I already had my YouTube channel and stuff, I could just see him roll his eyes when I came walking up. He's like, "Not this stupid guy." I love Al's a really nice guy. I have nothing against Al. He actually helped get my 6th gen out of the factory. Like, something happened with my car in delivery and was just sitting there. Like, to my knowledge, and from messages that I had back and forth with him, he's the reason my car actually shipped. I have nothing but respect for that man and what he did for Camaro. I just really wish I could have more conversations with him, because I just would love to pick his brain on stupid questions like that around the platform or the decisions and how that stuff all came to fruition and like gave birth to what the 6th gen was. Like Scott jumping in on the forums and answering questions, like he was able to reveal a lot of really cool stuff over the years, and makes me wonder if Al can eventually be that guy one day. Even though
when he
he's
retires.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a pretty busy man. Yeah.
I'm no engineer. I did. So Chris, you got invited to some of those media events during the 5th gen days.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of being able to sit down with these guys during that session, because there were only like a dozen people, at some of these events, and you could just chat over breakfast or lunch about things. And I remember him telling, I kind of asked that same question, Matt, about how the platforms come about. How do you, what is it? What's a platform? What's architecture? Why does that matter? And I remember him telling me not a whole ton, but he said that in the case of Alpha, it was an improvement on that Zeta platform that they borrowed from Australia,
Right.
the 5th gen platform. And because Cadillac did not share the 5th gen's platform. They had their own. And so they were trying to make everything more efficient. So they ended up coming up with Alpha. That way Cadillac and Camaro could be on the same platform. And so that's actually, they're all built at Lansing. You get Cadillacs in the same line. But one of the things that he mentioned was a consideration, right? You think of building a Cadillac, it's going to be cushy and comfy and shiny and whatever. But it also had to make sure they could fit 325s in the back. So when they designed it, they tubbed the back out and made sure that all the linkages would be in the right place. So even though you're going to be running Cadillac tires on some cars, on this thing, you need to have it fit. I would love to like be that guy, but my head would explode.
It's funny though, because it almost seems like they had to concede a little bit. And Joe, maybe you can speak to this as being a track guy, because I feel like the ZL1 1LE and even the ZL, well, not the front of the ZL1, but I feel like the rear tires poke out a little more than what I think GM really wanted them to. It's like they won the argument in the front because they're like, you know what, we could just widen the front body panel and make that tire look really good up there. But I always felt like the rear tire sticks out just a little more than I think any designer would want.
Actually, they did want it. They wanted that bulldog look.
Oh, so it was intentional.
It was both to get a fatter tire, and they thought it looked cool. At least
I feel like the 5th gen Z28 kind of did that too. Like it just gave it that really stout,
you remember they added
look.
That plastic kind of lip to widen the fender, because they couldn't.
Those are a pain in the butt to take off.
I think they did a better job on the 6th gen than they did in the 5th gen, because I remember the 5th gen 1LEs coming out. The rear looked narrower than the front. At least when I seen it at one of the shows.
I don't know. The first viewing I did, my buddy got his 17 SS 1LE, and we stuck GoPros on the side of his car. And I'm like, I want to see how the rocks fly off the tires. And I was really doing it because I was helping John at ZL1 Add-ons design rock guards for him. And I wanted to see how the rocks were actually coming off, how high up they were, getting flung around turns and all that stuff. And it was more of like, for a design standpoint, I want to make sure we're keeping the rocks off the paint. And so when he was just doing like a roundabout and then cruising like at 50, watching those rocks fly off, I was like, holy crap. Everyone's like, well, the SS1LE has the same kind of tire setup as the ZL1 on the front, but it doesn't have the wider fenders. And I was like, dang, the 1LE needs a much different rock guard than the ZL1, because the ZL1 has the half-inch wider each side to make up for that wider tire, where the SS1LE doesn't. And it's like, to this day, I can walk up to an SS1LE, even with rock guards, because trash comes from the bottom of the tires too, especially if they ever put a stickier tire on there, and their rocker panels are destroyed. It's bad.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's why I PP'd up that section too, because man, my last one was pretty brutal. When I switched the tire setup from having like the actual 2016s coming like 245s, 275. There was a smaller tire than the 1LEs, but once you put that tire on, that tire setup that the SS1LE has on a normal SS. Well,
Oh yeah,
they're not
XL.
normal. They're all SS. But when you put that tire setup, it changes how it handles. But man, the rocks that you get is, it's brutal.
I got hit in the head with one once.
You got what?
Oh yeah, it came right inside. When you do an autocross and you're hitting the wheel almost to full lock, essentially the rotation of the tires flinging the rocks right into the window. So
it would, because you're outside. It's coming off that front nose of the tire, right?
Yeah, it was kind of fun. I didn't know what the heck it was. I thought it was a bug at first, and then I kept driving. Then it hit me again. Then in that same direction. I was like, "What the heck's going on?"
I got rock chips in my helmet. What the heck?
Exactly.
This ain't no convertible.
Yeah, I found one in my seat. I was like, "How the hell?"
Oh, race car problems.
The 5th gen Z28s were the same. Those Trofeo R's were so sticky.
Oh yeah, you get those things warm.
Yeah, media event we went to, just driving that thing, it was just like, just going. So it's like this thing's gonna get hell of rocks chips on this thing.
Yeah, almost everyone I know that races their Z28 has full body PPF on that car.
Sorry, guys, I'm just doing some housekeeping here.
Good comments and good conversations going on over there.
Oh, they're talking about my Wagoneer in chat. That's heresy. I bought a Dodge. I'm sorry, or Jeep. Sorry, guys.
Okay, go get a CT or an Escalade V.
So, sorry, not to jump off Camaros, but I looked at the Escalades. We looked at the Suburbans, and we looked at the Yukon XLs. So again, I have a family of 6 kids, me and my wife. So we need an 8-seater vehicle. We loved our Suburban. We had a 2019 6.2 liter RST, 10-speed, fully loaded Premier, like the works, but it had 7 seats. I even went down and tried to find out how much it would cost to swap out the captain's chairs for a bench seat and get the proper harnesses so everything would work. And talk about getting ripped off trying to do that. So then I'm like, okay, we have to get a new one. And then obviously the new body style came out, and my wife's like, I don't like it. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean you don't like it? It looks great. I'm like showing her all the different models, took her down, saw like the Z71, which just looks awesome. Like it looks like a tank, like a battle tank. And so we go on the inside, and like GM's removed everything that my wife so my wife, I'm 6'5". I'm a big dude. I'm pretty tall. Chris, I know you're pretty tall too. My wife is 4'11". So when we get vehicles, we need vehicles that can adjust and fit both of us. So they removed the adjustable foot pedals. She sat in the front seat and could not reach the foot pedals. And I'm like, how? And I was like, well, maybe it's a GMC thing now instead of like, no, those are gone too. They're gone out of the truck too. I'm like, wow, what? And then my wife was like, well, what about just the regular sunroof? Not possible. You have to get the crazy, like psycho half vehicle moonroof. And the cars look great. I'm just really sad with how GM has dressed up the back seats compared to competition. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's go check out the Escalade. That's supposed to be like really plush, really nice. Like I looked in the backseat of the Escalade. It looked like my damn Suburban. I was like, wait, so you're paying $110,000 for a little more like real wood, real leather, and
see, Matt, you needed to upgrade to the Escalade V.
Well, right. Well, even then though, that's just like the high-end Escalade with a better motor. Like that's it. Like there's not much more, and it's not like we don't dislike the vehicle. We're just frustrated it doesn't have the features that my wife needs to be able to comfortably drive. Like we're not strapping blocks to the freaking pedals for her to drive, like that's insanity. So we went over and looked at the new Jeep Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer and fell in love. Like it's just like a super luxury plush, like I don't know. It's one like Dodge and Jeep have been doing some pretty cool things. I know a lot of people harass them about like transmissions and motor problems and stuff, but this new Wagoneer, like I'm impressed with like the comfort, the space too, like how wide it feels on the inside. Like my kids don't feel claustrophobic. So enough talk about that, but yes.
Yeah, nice looking truck though. Sean wants to know when Vito gets his driver's license.
Actually, Vito starts driver's training next month.
There you
He will
go.
be 14 years old, 9 months in Michigan, which is what it requires for driver's training. So he's starting next month.
That's very cool.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome.
I got 8 months to get my son's 70 finished because that's when he gets his license.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
So,
getting there.
sorry, Matt. I want to go back to this because I think this is an important question that a lot of people have, and it seems like like a lot of people's cars are stuck in Lansing, and it's taken I mean, we've got guys in the channel. It's taken them 2 months to have them delivered after they've already been built and ready to go. Right. I don't see Mike on here with us but Mike Burley was one of the guys that had his ZL1 stolen from the plant. They
He was one of those guys, huh?
So they said that they made him a priority to rebuild his car, and he reached out to me and asked about who he could contact because he was contacting the dealer, he was contacting GM customer care, and they were just kind of blowing him off. And they said, like, my car's been sitting in the plant ready to go for 5 weeks and it's not doing nothing. So I don't know what goes on in Lansing with I guess, and we talked about it before, I have a friend who works for Ford and they're running the same problems where cars are like 99% built, but they're missing the odd item. So they get moved to a different lot. And then when they are finished, they somehow I have a friend right now waiting on an F-150. His truck's been ready for 2 months and they haven't shipped it yet. So, they're all going through it, but I don't know shortage of drivers or what it is, right?
From what I've heard from some of the people that work at the plant, it sounds like they have a prioritization problem. So a bunch of chips or items will come in that are needed for specific cars, and they end up finding their way to cars that are on the production line versus cars that are sitting outside. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't work there. I'm not management or anything like that, but it makes you start wondering when you hear stories like that. Like, I've verified some of these people do work at the plant. They do build the cars there. So it's like, you kind of, when they're chiming in or sending me messages saying, hey, you just posted a video about a bunch of cars sitting out or people waiting on their cars. And they're probably waiting for chips for their specific cars. And a lot of cars have shipped to dealers without the chips that are needed, and they had plans to basically just ship those chips to their dealers. I know some dealerships that still have those cars sitting there waiting for those chips still. So they can't even sell the car. It's kind of like the Chevy Bolts that don't have their new battery replacements. They can't sell those cars. So I don't know if it's just managing the chain or whatever. Like, I wish I knew more people or can get direct answers for people, but because it's like, you'll see another guy, he ordered his car 2 weeks after a guy who's still waiting on his car. Both of their cars say finished. One is on a train headed to the dealership, and the other one's still sitting in a lot. And I know there's a lot of reasons that can cause a car to go to one place or another. Maybe they got a stripe package, or maybe they're added something like the Red Line series or something like that. So they're waiting for specific decals or maybe specific wheels. So those are all things to consider on order-to-order basis. But it's like, I talk to guys and I'm like, no, my car's like a vanilla ZL1. Like, I just wanted to order the color I wanted, and it's just sitting there. And I'm like, I wish I had an answer for you. I wish I knew someone that would be willing to respond, because when they reach out to GM and their customer service, like, the customer service, like, oh yeah, sorry, we can't give you any other information.
They just look up the order number and that's it.
Back in the day, like in 2016, their team would actually give you more information. Like, something happened in the hierarchy of stuff where customer service got limited on what they're allowed to respond. And God bless, I miss Becky like no others. For those of you guys who don't know Becky D, talk about a woman who poured her life into the Camaro community, not only to sell and get people interested in cars, but to help anybody who was like had a question. Like, she was there. And I feel like there's been people that have kind of stepped up and helped, but I don't know if anybody has done it to the level Becky ever did. And it sucks that she passed away. For those of you who knew Becky or didn't know, she was an amazing woman, and really sad. But Camaro community lost someone great. But we don't have that person anymore, because I would reach out to Becky and Becky'd be like, oh, let me make a call and I'll find out, and it's like a lot of information and details I got was from Becky, because Becky was freaking amazing and she knew like everyone over there. Like, I don't know if she called Al directly or what, but it was an asset that the community had that we all lost, unfortunately.
Well, the whole network has decreased a little bit, right? So the Camaro team, they're still there, but they are bare bones of what they used to be, because all they're doing, their job is just maintained. It's not a, I don't know enough details to say that there's no chief engineer, but like Al's working electric stuff now. The guys that came to Camaro Fest, they were awesome. In the past, we used to have a dozen, maybe 20 General Motors employees show up and be part of that event. This past year, there was one, and he was fantastic. There were more reps, but they were the contracted out marketing. So I think it's a manpower issue just as much as it is a supply chain issue. It's not what it was, and I'm I don't want to be critical, I guess, but it's a little sad.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Camaro's on autopilot until it sails off into the sunset, which is very sad. I know when I talked to Al originally when the 6th gen first came out, and I was interviewing him at Belle Isle for the launch of the car. His job as chief is he sets budgets and he sets the life of the car, so everything is done. A lot of it is done ahead of time, so they know way in advance of what colors, options, everything that's going to get pushed in the future. Because that's he's got to sell his budget.
Mm-hmm.
So just real shortly, guys, my wife Kelly is in chat. She has her own channel on YouTube as well. She was an integral part of being a support for me, certainly, and then left her mark on Camaro Country F Body Group. She was my vice president. Not because she was my wife. She probably did one of the best jobs of them all. I mean, I had a couple of them, but I think Kel and I kind of made it feel like a family atmosphere, and a lot of people were pretty upset when Kel stepped down, and we had a lot going on at the time, but Kelly's here to support. Thank you, honey. I really appreciate it. Love you very much. So I just thought I would throw that up there. Where are we?
Hey, Mark, if I can kind of interject for a second, there's a comment in there, L33TJ337. Second gen badges. I have no affiliation with this website, but try CamaroCentral.com. They might be able to get you a badge for that car.
Actually did a video on the badges for the 2nd generation, because there's so many different ones, and people were getting confused on what was what and what should be what. But I don't think they have the specific one he's looking for. Best bet would be to go to nastyz28.com, join the forums, and just put a call like looking for original. There's a lot of Survivor cars that parts have been pulled off of, that guys are like hoarding those parts. I'm not going to tell you it's probably not going to be cheap, but you could probably get an original one.
Or I forget. I never had a 2nd gen. I bought any of the stuff that I couldn't get locally. I got from Hawk's 3rd gen for my 91. But what about Classic Industries? Would they not?
It's weird. It's like he had mentioned, there's a lot of different types of front end. Like, they changed the front ends, and in the years, depending on the model, they changed how they got rid of the emblems and then mounted them differently. It went down into the grill, then it went back up on top of the valance panel. So depending on the year and the make will define what it is. Like, a lot of people put, like, on the 70 through 73s, they put the wrong emblems on their cars. So the 70s had that silver kind of with the black stylistic, like, I forget the font that they call it. And then it changed over to the chrome with the red insert. And then there is like could have changed if it had an RS package or if it had the LT deluxe trim. Like, sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole of craziness. Joe's smiling. He's like, I don't know enough. I know enough about the 70, 71, or 70, 71, 72, 73 because I own cars within that craziness. But as soon as you go beyond when like they changed everything because of the gas embargoes and the motors became crap and bumper weird things got added to the car, it gets weird.
The irony is that they spend all that time and money changing badges and chrome things and locations, but you go inside the car and the same dash panels used in
All
about
the same.
6 different car lines for 12 years.
Right. Well, like, wait, didn't this come out of the Vega? Like,
is everybody good? I mean, we because we've been talking so much, I kind of left the questions, but are we good for another 20 minutes, half an hour? And we get all our questions covered, or is anybody got to get going? Or
I can keep going.
everybody's good? Okay, cool. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Has anyone heard of the 1LE Camaro only being produced at 20% of the cars ordered until October?
That's a trick question. 1LE ZL1 or 1LE SS? Or do we have to go by the Camaro 6 name? ZLE. Oh, Joe's face on that one. I love it. Thank you.
I'm
A
sorry.
ZL1 1LE owner.
It makes me twitch. I'm sorry.
Why does everybody have to truncate everything? Why does everything have to be abbreviated to death?
That's bad, but there's nothing quite as bad as marrow.
Oh,
I can't.
Agreed. Agreed. Hey, Chris, how are you enjoying your Rapid Blue Marrow?
Rapid Blue, but a marrow? Oh boy.
It sounds like a medical thing. Like, hey guys, let's all everybody bring your marrows. It's like, why?
As many years as I've been doing Camaro stuff, I've never heard anybody actually in person refer to it as a marrow.
It's the younger generation. I see it a lot on my channel and a lot on Instagram. People will like say marrow, like even hashtag marrow, and I'm like, bone marrow? Like, what is happening?
Chris is onto something though. I haven't actually heard it in person. I read it all the time, but I've never heard it come out of somebody's mouth.
No,
I think they're afraid of being smacked.
I think so. I did hear somebody call it the cami once. That was sad.
My wife's like, maybe we should name our daughter Cammy. I was like, no.
So MJ says it's an SS1LE, guys.
I did hear there's some constraints going. There's a lot of constraints, actually.
So
I know the end of 2022, there was constraints on the ZL1 1LE because of the spoiler.
Right.
And then there were some other carbon fiber bits they were having troubles getting, but that was for cars that added the carbon word, the front dash, passenger side, that insert. But
Go ahead.
I was just going to say at the fest this past year, I was talking to the Camaro team rep, and he was really frustrated, like not upset at his job or anything, but he's seeing all these people walking around, and he goes, I almost didn't bring the ZL1 1LA. He goes, I can't build them because we can't get the carbon fiber parts for it. And at the time, he said they were working on additional suppliers to try and relieve the issues that they're coming up with, but just with everything else with the silly supply chain stuff, I hadn't heard anything about the SS1LE, but you guys would probably know a little bit better than I would about that.
Well, I know for the last part of 2022, it was impossible to get those in California and Washington because of brakes. So I don't know. I haven't heard any restrictions on that, unless there was a restriction on the manual transmission for a hot minute. I don't think that's still the case right now, but they did have limit on the manual transmissions, which I thought was weird. But I guess most.
Yeah. Why don't we ask the guy who owns one? What are you hearing, Anthony?
You know, this whole time I was on mute. So, I mean, the only thing I heard about it was that it was just on the package was constrained. I don't know the reason for it, but I think it was like you had a manual transmission or something like that, or maybe it's a suspension. I think I heard. I read somewhere, but I can't verify that. But I don't know why it's on constraint, but it is one of the popular ones. Maybe due to chips or whatever. But yeah, it's supposed to be lifted in October, as I heard.
It could also simply be they want to get the regular cars out to people.
I've been hearing that a lot too, because like there's a lot of LT1s that have been like flooding the market a lot, way more than usual.
And I don't say regular offensively, FYI.
No, me.
Well, I know about 2 weeks ago, a lot of the 2022s actually left Lansing, and were all the in transits were actually arriving at dealers finally. So they must have gotten the chips for them and got the cars going.
Kelly's in the background there promoting everyone's channels in the chat. Thank you, honey, for that. So we're just skipping, and I mean, none of it makes sense, right? Certainly, you know what, Anthony and Matt probably cover it a lot better than I do. I probably need to remember to cover it as well about the constraints and how none of it makes sense. But when you think about it, forgetting the constraints, it doesn't make sense. But when you bring the constraints into there's guys that are like 3 months they have their cars, and then there's guys that are like 10 months they don't have their cars. But when you look at, and I asked the question in chat, but I forgot to do it in my videos, is what car is like, what options are you building your car with? Because that could heavily sway whether you're driving it or waiting for it, right? So
there's nothing worse than custom ordering your car and having someone else be able to get it before you. They didn't order it, they didn't do nothing. They just walk on the lot and get exactly what they want. Like, on Camaro 6, I'm pretty sure I was the first person to post their order sheet on Camaro 6. So I like created a thread, and like even I don't know who posts the front news articles and stuff, but I was super excited because I thought in my head, you place an order first, you're kind of in the front of the line, your car is going to come off the line, you're going to get your car, do all that stuff. How naive I was, you know, and lo and behold, all these people ordered months after my car, picking their cars up at the dealer, posting pictures, enjoying their cars, and I'm just sitting there like,
you're probably like sunny beaches.
What happened? Like, order my car in July, I got it December 31st, like literally the last day of 2015, and I didn't even get to drive it. It arrived at the dealership, but they were closed, and I was like, I hate life right now, but
I was one of those
thing happened
guys.
to me, and when I ordered my ZL1, my 2012 ZL1, and then after it was built in Oshawa, it went to like some sort of black hole, and it sat there forever.
I think I went to the same. Yours was in the black hole mine ended up going into too. You know, like God. I'm pretty certain Al was the reason I got my car, even when I did, and so. If that was you, Al, if you ever see this or watch this or are watching now, thank you.
Yeah, Al, and if you are watching, I'm sure, as all of us, would love to have you on any of our channels. All the links are there. Reach out. My email's in the description. I'll hook you up with all these great guys, and you can roll the dice or flip a coin and choose which one you want to go on. I asked Scott about Al, and I only met Al a couple times, and Scott said, Al's a really busy guy, and we were talking behind stage the last time I had him on, and the intriguing part with the electric part is whatever's coming out electric because of Al being involved with it, it's going to be phenomenal because Al is running the electric division now, right? So performance wise, it's going to be top notch, right? Because Al's running it, right? So
they brought the Hummer back, right? Which at first glance is kind of cool. It's a 9,000-pound truck that goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Yep.
The mode they use is acronym WTF. Like, tell me that wasn't Al.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can crawl wall too.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little Easter egg in there that says MFAO in there.
I hope and I know some of you guys will disagree with me, or not like to hear this, but if GM does kill off a gas-powered Camaro, I would be okay driving an EV Camaro under a couple stipulations. has to be fat. No. Has to be fast. Multi-motor. Has to look like a Camaro. Why do electric cars have to look like retarded not cars? Like I give Dodge a little prop.
I was just gonna say,
is the best foot forward I have seen of something, but stop calling it a muscle car. Like, can we call it like a performance EV? Like, can we just get rid of the whole like muscle versus compact versus mom soccer van? Like, I don't know. Like that feels like that's gas powered terms. Let's get to what EVs are. But I would be excited to drive an EV for the performance side. Yes, it's going to be missing the sound. Yes, it's going to be missing the smells. But you know what? We have our gas powered V8s. Like, they're not vanishing. They're not disappearing off the face of this earth. Like, there's one right behind Joe right there. It's not going nowhere unless he actually makes it go somewhere. Like, I got my V8s, but I'll tell you what, I have, in as much as the car is a goddamn clown car, sorry, language, but that little Bolt EV is like driving a Mario Kart, like everywhere. Like, I'm just like, yeah, this thing's awesome. And I get out and I'm like, this car is the ugliest car ever. But then I get back in it and it's just like, you go, it's fun. Like, and if anybody has ever been in an EV that can actually accelerate, like, I'm not a big fan of Tesla, but I have been able to be in a Plaid. That car's insanity. Like, it's insanity. And knowing GM, I think they will conquer the current issues that are with EVs. They're like really fun to launch in. And then once you hit like that speed, there's nothing there, you know? And it's like, they have to solve that. And they have to like if they can give me an all-wheel drive Camaro that does burnouts no matter what, everywhere, all the time, like, I will not be angry about that. And some people like, oh, that's heresy. The Camaro needs to be a gas powered car. I agree with a lot of that. But if they give us a true performance car that lives up to Camaro nameplate, I'm not going to be mad about it.
Are you okay calling it an E28?
I mean, that would be a good that would be a like, okay, I see what you did there, like, but it would make the Z28 owners just roll over.
Same with the Stingray, right? I mean, you know,
why call it an E28 when you have the 1LE?
That's it.
There you go.
That works. Look at now we're talking multiple models.
Yeah. Well, not
the E will be blue this time.
Hey Joe, this is gonna go back to your cringe or your face you made when I say it. Like, it can be a ZLE.
Well, here's the problem. They're all going to be E's, right? So it doesn't. It just.
Yeah.
But we could spell Camaro with an E like everybody else does.
Camaro.
Camaro.
Yeah, let's do a Camaro and it's electric.
Stop it.
No, that's bad.
We've never seen that before, have we?
I did reserve a Blazer SS.
I did the same thing, Chris.
Because I'm curious. I mean, I used to have a Volt back in the day. I loved it.
I loved the concept. Why couldn't they release the car that looked like the concept?
I know, but I loved my Volt. I drove it. I never put gas in that thing. It only got about 35 miles to the charge, but I loved it, and I am really interested to see what GM is going to do. Look, I mean, we've already seen what they've done with the Hummer, and when I look at Tesla and then I look at GM, Tesla is more of a tech company, you know, that makes cars. Yeah. GM is an actual, you know, they make cars.
Yeah.
So let's see what they can do.
But me personally though, I'm not a fan of the way the Blazer looked. When I heard of the Blazer, I thought they was going to kind of do like what Ford did with the Bronco, kind of bring that retro look. Like, they brought back the K5 Blazer kind of look, but with like an EV platform or something like that. I feel like that would have been like top seller for GM. Like, K5 Blazer was like everybody, starting with the two-door. I'm talking about the two-door aspect. Like, that would have been awesome.
See, I'm not a purist, so I really don't care.
I think GM just threw that out the window. Like, there's like, we already got a bunch of like, I don't even know the terms, SUVs, CUVs, QLMLPs, like all the UVs. But like, for me, it's not necessarily the look. Like, so I drive an EV Bolt as my daily, but I want a bigger vehicle. Like I'm 6'5". A human my size should not be in a Bolt. Like I just throwing that out there. You
No.
shouldn't be. But this gas crisis, that car has been the best purchase I ever made because I had a lifted truck on 37s that was getting about 15 to 17 miles a gallon. You know, I was saving like $1,500 a month in gas just because of that. And now electric prices are going up out here. I don't. What do you guys pay per kilowatt out where you're at? Do you guys?
We're on. Go ahead, guys.
7 cents after 11 p.m. 7 cents.
So it is 39 cents per kilowatt out here in California right now. They just did a huge increase. I'm about ready to stab somebody because now it's not that affordable to have EV.
We're on a tiered system up here in Canada where I think the cheapest it is 8, and it goes up to like 15 cents maybe.
Yeah, we used to be 13 cents. So it's
but that's crazy, man. California with 39 when they're trying to push everybody into electric cars. It's like none of that makes sense, right?
And then if you look at how much the public chargers are charging people, I mean,
it's
those level
ridiculous.
3 chargers. We just released
ridiculous.
an article on Muscle Cars and Trucks last week about how much it costs to fully charge a Hummer. If it's completely,
Lost somebody.
There's
it's
Joe.
going to cost almost $100.
That's insane. It's like they're replacing gas stations with EV charge stations, and you're going to be paying about the same amount. And just wait until the bureaucrats get their hands on it and start adding more taxes and fees and everything else. Like California is already like, oh, well, we're pushing everyone to EV. Oh, wait, we have a huge shortfall on gas tax revenue.
How do people pay for the roads then?
Yeah, well, now they're talking about a pay per mile program that they're piloting. They've been piloting it since last year where they're testing, okay, where's the limits? How can we charge people for every mile? It's like, stop this. Just stop. Like, good Lord, how much more taxes do we have to pay? Sorry, getting political. I'm done. That's it.
So to keep it political, well, not really political, but I had this discussion with somebody the other day, and we were talking about the gas pumps up here. Everything's done through Measurements Canada to make sure that the gas pumps are all, legit and they're calibrated properly. Yeah, right. Yeah. The electric charging station or the public charging stations up here don't fall under Measurement Canada calibration.
Oh.
And I know watching some of the other good channels on YouTube, TFL, State of Charge, there's a couple of them, right? Where they're going to Electrify America, right? And the station said one thing and the truck said another one. Like, that wasn't very common, but you did see it the odd time. And I'm like, that's going to have to be addressed as well, right? So
one thing with a lot of the charging is those charging vehicles, they charge differently, So like my Bolt I believe can only get it's 40 or 50 amps, whereas like some of these newer ones or the Teslas can get like 90 amps, those crazy quick charges or whatever. And I think the Blazers I think the new Blazer can get up to 120 amps, and that's how they're doing that 10-minute 80%. Yeah, it's like crazy. But I'm like, dude, like my electric panel box out here is only 125 amps. Like I couldn't. I don't think you can install those quick charge setups in a personal home. I think the max they allow you in home setting is the stage 2. Yeah. That could be wrong. If that's wrong, please someone correct me. But
I'm in the supply business.
Yeah.
And up here, you can do it. You have to. Some of the bigger houses are doing it. They're putting in the big 600 volt chargers and stuff, or 600 volt systems. They're putting in big and passive boxes for it. But up here, all the new builds are all 200. Have to be 200 amp service up here.
Yeah, I think California's standard now is 250.
Whoop. Hey Joe, sorry buddy, we've seen this. Forgot you.
I mean, the house that I'm living in, and this is going to be an issue people run into in California and probably every other state if they start going down this psychoness of forcing EVs on people. A lot of these homes aren't built for this kind of stuff. And, You can't use the wall chargers. Like people who tell you like, oh, go get an EV, you could just plug it in the wall. It's like, yeah, it'd take you 5 days to charge from 0 back up to, you know, and that's if you're pushing the system like on 12, if you set it for 12 amps versus 8 amps or whatever, you know, and it's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to have a level 2 if you're going to daily drive this thing and drive more than 30, 40 miles a day. I mean, my Bolt EV gets about 265 miles, like if every condition is perfect. If I turn the AC on, which it's very much on right now, I get about 200 miles out of it. And I'm seeing articles every day on all these news outlet sites. Like did you guys see the one on the Ford Lightning that was towing that boat and he made 48 miles or something like that?
Yeah, I think that was a little like, I think it's a little over exaggerated.
But you know, even if he got 100 miles, like that's nothing. Like I couldn't get a truck and tow my race car to the track and back. All the tracks around me are 50 plus miles away. Yeah. So if that's the instance, like you know, if I'm being forced to buy only EV vehicles at some point in my life, like, you know, racing is basically done for, you know. But
another good channel, TFL, that I watch out of Colorado. They took a Lightning with a 9,000 pound trailer on it and took it up the Ike, and it broke loose off just getting on the on-ramp, getting on the highway. It broke loose when they hammered it with a 9,000 pound trailer on. Like that's how much torque they have, right? Mm-hmm. But they did a test on it. It went 80 miles with a 9,000 pound trailer on an F-150.
Dang. What is it? Has anybody done videos on the Hummer? What's the new Hummer getting towing with that 11,000 whatever?
I haven't seen one out there.
I haven't seen anything.
I'm excited to see what the Silverado would do, mainly because I'm a big Avalanche fan and having one, and I like the look of the new Silverado.
Same.
You know, I can't wait to see when they come out. You know, how it's going to do versus the F-150, right? So,
I was going to say, I'm sorry, but all I see is a Ridgeline when I see that thing. I don't think it's the ugliest truck in the world. It's much better than the prototype Tesla truck or whatever the hell that thing's called. But I can't unsee the Ridgeline in that thing.
Yeah. I will say, you know what, the F-150 Ford did a phenomenal job on the F-150. I mean, there's a lot of parts off the regular truck that go into that Lightning.
It looks like a truck, and you know, I give props to them. Like I feel like the Cadillac Lyriq is one of the first EVs that GM revealed that doesn't look like a pure EV. Like I was like, oh, it actually looks like a nice car. And I feel like the Blazer is that way a little bit. The front end still kind of has that weird plastic thing that GM's been doing, like on the Volt and on the Bolt. But it's like, come on, guys, you could do better than this. I know you have very talented designers. Like, why are you accepting these weird, big plastic? Bleh, like, make it look like I know there's not a radiator there, but find a way to incorporate it. Like, cool the batteries off, create duct. Like, again, I think the new Charger Banshee did it really well. That front end looks like an old school Charger, and it's functional in design. Like, I'm like, damn, that looks like a nice car.
So sorry, trying to get us back on track here. Clean Money says, is GM shuffling resources for the new Chevelle? I didn't know that Chevelle was coming out officially, but
I think they're talking about that company that remade the Chevelle on the Camaro platform, right? Like it's kind of like the Pontiac guys.
When I put insurance on my new Camaro, I called Haggerty, and the girl on the phone when she's signing me up, she goes, "Hey, did you hear GM's coming out with the Chevelle next year?" And I was like, "Oh, really?" She's like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I just wanted to get off the phone.
I had family members legit call me like, "Did you see GM just revealed the new Chevelle?" And like my wife had a friend that was like at the reveal event. She's like, "Did you know about this?" I'm like, "That's not GM. GM did not make that. GM would no."
It's like all the versions of the Trans Am that come out every year.
I mean,
it'd have been highly advertised.
More power, like, and after restoring an old classic car, more power to those companies who invest the money to create molds and whatever else to create these things that people really do desire and would love to see come back. But yeah, I don't see GM doing that. But did you guys actually, on that subject, did you guys see the GM restoration, or have you guys heard about that project that GM's doing? Like, they're coming back out with original parts and pieces for some of these old vehicles. I think they're tired of letting all these other companies do it and want their slice of the pie.
Yeah.
But I'm actually really excited about that. I would love to learn more. I don't know, like, Chris, if you know anybody over there that's on that team or a part of that, like, if there's any way you can make an introduction, because I would love to talk about that more and see what they're doing.
Cool. I know SEMA just opened up a shop here in Michigan. They just built a shop for the aftermarket people here in Detroit to go there and test out their stuff in their shop. So that just opened.
I missed that too. Month. I'm disappointed. They had a car show there, right, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm mad I missed that.
Is that new shop that they opened up to combat the CARB and all that stuff, so they can actually do full EPA and CARB testing instead of it just being the one place?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard about that from some of the aftermarket companies. They were all excited because they have more than just one place to send stuff to actually get proper CARB and EPA ratings.
Speaking of that whole aftermarket thing with the Chevelle, and then we'll move on to the next question. But I remember during the 5th gen days, you had these couple Camaros, companies that were building Trans Ams out of the Camaro bodies, and I thought that really was going to pick up because there is a fair audience of Trans Am people who want to see that car come back. And yet they kind of seem like they all kind of disappeared. I mean, one of the guys in the group's got one. We have it on our website, and it's really well done. Right? It was a 2010 Camaro that he took, and he bought this kit, and turned it into a Firebird. And it always. I mean, we had it in booths that always got a lot of attention. Right? Always, and it just kind of seemed like it was starting to take off, and then it just nosedived. And you don't really, at least I don't see it very often, unless you guys might see some out there. But
well, I know I forget the name of the company, but that one company's at SEMA almost every year. I think last year or the year before was the first year I didn't see them, or whatever year was the last year that was an actual SEMA show before they did that COVID digital weirdness. But yeah, they were always showing up, like, because they had recreated They created the Firebird and then the Trans Am Firebird off of the 6th generation cars. And I saw them at that show, but I never really heard much more about that. And it's weird because, like, the and you probably know this, Mark, the Pontiac groups or the Trans Am groups, like, they're very tight knit, very close, like craziness compared to like the Camaro guys. But
they are, yeah. I'll tell you, Matt, back in the day, when we were doing 4 and 5 shows a year, we got to the point where we had to do a Firebird show, or we felt like we had to do a Firebird show because there wasn't a lot of Firebird shows out there, and we wanted to kind of help promote that side of the brand. And those guys are tighter than the Camaro guys. I mean, the Firebird show, I think, was last week down in the States there. And it brings in tons of cars down there every year, right? The Trans Am National, sorry. Great show. Another one that I've never made it down to, but yeah, like you're right. They are tighter than the Camaro guys.
And it's funny because they don't like coming to Camaro shows. Some of them do, but like the majority of them, like, we tried hard as hell for CamaroCon to get those guys to come out. And Joe, I don't know if you've put any effort trying to get the Trans Am Pontiac guys out to Camaro Fest. I know some of them show up, but not to the quantity that you would think they would. Because I know they're there and they got nice cars, but they don't like to be around the Camaros. It's almost like they can't be together. They're opposite.
You get them too close together, people start confusing them.
You're right.
We've always invited them. We've invited all generations of Camaro, all the Firebirds. Unfortunately, to that point, I guess, unfortunately, when we started Camaro Fest, it was 5th gen, and there was no Firebird. So
yeah,
I think we still struggle. I mean, we would love to have more generations of Camaro show up, and they do, just not in the numbers like you said that we want. But then the Firebirds, we've had a couple. There was one that autocrossed and got like second place. It was really, really awesome. It was a second
Nice.
gen. So we'll keep inviting them.
The one like, so I am planning to bring CamaroCon back, but not in like, I'm not going to go back to Vegas. Like just kind of like the homegrown, like Cars and Coffee style that it was
Yeah,
when
that
it
was
first
huge.
started. And that was great, you know, and it didn't cost me an arm and a leg to do that. Like I can manage that. But I think because I started doing the second gen content and have been really like doing a lot of the older stuff, like my Instagram and my YouTube and all that stuff has gotten a lot of followers that are, you know, they wouldn't have followed my channel or seen the things that we do before. And I think it's kind of the same way with Camaro Fest, where a lot of what you guys do still lives within Camaro5, Camaro6.com. And so, like you said, like there was no Pontiac for the 5th generation. So I'd love to reach those guys because, I mean, there's a car next door, like 2 houses down from me. It's original. I think it's a 76 black with the Firehawk and all, like just beautiful example of what that car is. And yes, they are different cars. There's a lot of people like, oh, they're the same cars. Like, there's no difference. And it's like, oh, you want to bet? There is not much the same between those two styles.
Tony Hardline for Firebird guy that. And
right? No, and it's like, dude, have you seen the motors that come in those cars? They're pretty nice motors, guys. Like, they blow our 350s out the water. You know, but yeah, some beautiful cars. I would just wish there was a better way to reach them. Like they seem to be very focused on like fishbowled into like Facebook groups or wherever they're at. I haven't found them. I don't own a Firebird yet, so I
Well, Chris, you might be able to speak to this. I guess it's an observation I made when the 5th gen came back out. There's almost this weird social schism between all the previous generations and the new car.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible, but it
wasn't terrible, but it started too when the car went away because I mean Camaro and Firebird were built and Saint Therese in Quebec, and then it went away, but Camaro came back and
well, Pontiac was killed, right? What year did Pontiac go under?
So that was
09, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
So, like, they basically killed the Camaro and Pontiac, like, just all of it. There's like, yeah, all of that's going away too.
So I think there might be some feelings there. How come Camaro came back and Trans Am and Firebird didn't? So,
I mean, from an outsider, like, well, there was no Pontiac anymore.
Well, I mean, that's what. Yeah, we always say that too.
I'll put Martin's question back up there in a second, but I just wanted to share this with any of the local guys that are watching up here in Ontario.
What part of Ontario are you in, Mark?
I'm north of Toronto right now.
Okay.
I'm north of Barrie. Okay. North of Barrie.
Okay.
So for our sister group, Toronto TAs is doing their Firebird cruise tomorrow. It was a backup date from the one from last weekend. So if anybody wants to join Rob and his crew tomorrow, I put the link in the chat there for anybody who's in Ontario and got a Firebird and wants to join Rob and those guys. I just wanted to put that up quick. We'll put Martin's question back up here, but yeah, they are pretty tight guys, and Rob does a good job with his crews. The guys really like it, so we certainly want to promote that for them. Martin's got any news on how long it takes to retrofit Camaro with heated cool seats?
Oh, I think he's talking about the missing chips.
Yeah.
I know they've been shipping chips out for the trucks and the mom vehicles, so the Tahoes and the Suburbans. But I haven't heard anything about the Camaros getting their chips that shipped with the heated vented without the I don't know. I don't even know where that chip is. I thought everything was controlled by the BCM, so I don't know.
Yeah, same.
Real quick, thanks to my wife, Kelly, for jumping in and kind of moderating and putting some links up for everybody's channels and all that, just kind of hanging out with us. She's definitely my better half. So thank you, honey, for looking after us and making sure that we're all organized. Yeah, I don't. I think so. Are we thinking maybe October? We should start to see some of this stuff come back.
Hope.
For the heat cool seat, do you think?
Seems like it's like one step forward, two steps back.
Right.
It makes me wonder, like, is it ever going to get back to normal? Like, are they like, how many more processing chips does it take to make these EVs versus the current cars?
Right.
You know, so it's
Right.
like all of a sudden they start ramping up all these EV cars, and it's going to be needing even more processing power. You know, the more big screens and the more tech and the more doodads and buttons that we want in these cars, the more chips it's going to take. So
when you got to figure too, when it comes to supply chain stuff, like how long to get back to normal? Normal's not going to cut covering all the cars that currently don't have chips and putting them in the ones that are being built today.
Yeah,
you need more than normal, and we're still struggling. So
yeah, we're going to be in this for a while, I believe, right? So just going back to the electric part here for very quickly. Jake in the basement asked, are they going to pull it off what Dodge did with making an e-muscle with that SRT Banshee? I personally think they did a phenomenal job. I will give it to Dodge. I mean, when Dodge brought out that Challenger, when the Camaro and that come out, they did a phenomenal job with the retro styling and all that. And I think they've kind of hit the nail on the head again with that SRT Banshee for styling.
Makes me wonder
really good.
How much is that final car going to look like the car that we saw? Just like the 5th generation Camaro, that concept that you guys saw early on, or that they revealed in 2009, like the car that we got looked quite a bit different. I mean, line wise, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the one in Transformers is even a lot different than the 5th gen that we got. So it'd be real, like, is I haven't been following Dodge that closely over all these years. So it makes me wonder how from concept to final version that car will be or look.
It always depends on how do they intend to build that concept. Like when they brought the Volt out, that was simply to stun people. They had no plans on building. I think Bob Lutz said it was more aerodynamic backwards. The Camaro concept, they came out with it, and I don't know, a couple of you guys said you've been up to one. Have you noticed how wide that thing is? It's stupid wide, and they narrowed it up, which changed the proportions of the real car. But
the mirrors on it were like super skinny too.
Not a single legal regulation with that.
Right. So I mean, they obviously have to take these concepts, they have to massage them to make them, pass any standards or regulations.
Right.
To get them on the road.
If the concept is meant to be built and they're just kind of calling it a concept to see what people think, I think didn't the Lyric start as a concept? I can't remember the Cadillac.
I don't. The first image that I ever saw of the Lyric, it looked like a car off the street. Like nothing looked out of proportion or weird.
That's what I was going to say. If I remember right, and that was a concept initially, like they kept pretty true to that. I have faith that they can design this car like it needs to look, but you're probably going to take a hit on range if you do it.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people would be okay with if it didn't look like a jelly bean. I mean,
I always wonder because people like every time I talk to people about EVs and range, I get range anxiety in my car, and I know the mileage. I've driven it for years now, but like honestly, like how many of us or how many people actually drive their cars beyond the point that they would have to charge it again on the road? Like maybe going to Camaro Fest, people who want to drive across country.
It's funny. I talked to my wife the other day about replacing her car. We have a 13 Chevy Sonic. We bought it brand new for her to get back and forth to work, and it's been a great car, right? And I said the other day, I said about replacing it for like a Bolt or something, right? Because I'm 7 minutes from work, right? The lady, to the point where the lady said to me, and my wife does a lot of working from home. The wife said to me, or the lady at the DOV said to me, "Have you driven this car much?" Like I had like 1,200 kilometers on it last year, when I had to go renew the sticker, right? So I thought, well, why don't we replace it with something electric? I live 7 minutes from work. I could go all week on a charge, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people could somewhat pull it off. A friend of mine has a Bolt and goes back and forth about 45 minutes from here, and goes back and forth, no problem every day. It doesn't really have any range anxiety. Plugs in it at night, and they do have a separate gas vehicle, so you know that's fine, like us, right? But I guess that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Sorry, go ahead. I talk too much.
No, I was just going to say it's real quick. Is that when Chevy came out with the Volt, and Chris, I think you were part of the VIP program there with that car. Yeah. They had said that their research, whatever, said that 80% of Americans drove 40 or less miles per day.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so that's where they came up with that number for the battery. Now, that's 80% is not everybody, but 40 miles out of a 300-mile battery is really not that much. So you could go all week.
I loved my Volt. I absolutely loved. I leased it for 3 years. I lived 2 miles from work. So my commute is 2 miles each way. I never bought gas unless it was for my Camaro. That was it, and I absolutely loved that car. Loved it.
It's just interesting because it's like I look at my Camaro, and it's kind of an unfair take here, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Like, my 6th gen Camaro built how it is, making over 1,000 horsepower, like gets 2 miles to the gallon, you know, and it's like, I'm not driving that car to Sacramento and back, you know, like I would have to fill up 17 times. But then again, I converted the car into a race car. So let me convert now. Okay. I built a more modern 1971 Camaro. Yes, it's an NA carbureted car, so it's not going to get the gas mileage that a new efficient whatever car is going to get. But even then, it's like if I can get 10 miles a gallon out of that car, I can go 190 miles. You know, it's like, can I drive that car and cruise it and fill it up? Hell yeah, I can. And I can keep driving, and I'll probably do it. I'll probably drive it to Camaro Fest at some point, as long as Joe's still doing it. But in my Bolt, like, it became a real issue where I was kind of sitting down because we have 8 people in my family, and my wife had a Suburban that was a 7-seater, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in a situation where we're a 2-car family if we go anywhere. And I was like, well, we have to fix that. We got to get an 8-seater. But I was just like, it really came to light because we're like, oh, we need to go over to our friend's house, you know, and they live 59 miles away. And it's 110 degrees out, and with traffic and everything, I'm like, range anxiety, that could be a problem in the Bolt, you know, it would be really close. Like, I could make it there and back, but I started questioning. I'm like, well, what if we went to this friend's house that lived in, you know, Central California? Like, we couldn't do it. We legit couldn't do it as a full family. And so I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, what if I ended up like selling my car and got a Hummer? Because I really wanted a new Hummer. Actually, I want the other one that didn't release yet, the full cabin size one, not the partial one. And I was like, that would be the same thing. And I was like, that ruled that vehicle out for me of like going to Central, like, can I drive to Central California and back on a charge? And the answer was no. You know, it's like, I couldn't do it. Can I stop and plug in? I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to. Like, I could stop and go get gas or whatever. But like Chris was saying, it's like, if it cost me $100 to charge the damn thing for 10 minutes, I'm like, hell no, this is dumb. Like, why am I doing this? Like, you know, but if I got a Camaro with dual motors or whatever, and it, you know, and it's like, if I want to hot rod it around or go racing, and it's only going to get 80 miles out of whatever, you know, say they make it 300 because I'm an idiot and I keep my foot to the floor, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not even mad about that. So I don't know. It's weird because I look at my Camaros as not my daily drivers, you know, and I know a lot of people aren't in that situation. Whatever car they have, that's the car they have to have. So maybe their family lives out of state and they need to be able to drive out of state. I could see why that's a concern, you know, and until they solve those problems or get people comfortable with the idea of stopping for lunch and charging for an hour, and it's not going to cost you $17 million to charge it. You know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Come on. Sorry.
This is an interesting question right here about I wanted to talk about this a little bit about allocations, because I see so many people saying that I placed my order for a Camaro for 8 months and it's not being picked up. And I was like, you got to find a dealership that has allocations.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up, Chris, because you know what? Again, I've said it, and I know Matt's covered it extensively, and so has Anthony. You know, and I get tons of questions. Now, how do I know? How do I know my dealership's got allocation?
You
So
don't.
I'm going to let you go ahead. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and answer that question.
My dealership will tell me. I mean, if I call them, and if you look online too, a lot of, at least my dealer, they show all their cars that are available. You can order.
Right.
So if they say you can order this car, they have the allocation.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that in other dealers out
I
here.
haven't seen that before.
Yeah, at Sarah Whalen, where I got my car, it used to be Buff Whalen. They're the largest Chevy dealer in the country, and they have tons of allocations, and they use them.
Yeah, it actually it's funny, that topic wedged itself into one of my news pieces recently, because I just had so many people asking, like, I've had my car on order with my dealer, and I was like, well, what? I'm like, what code do you have from the plant? Well, there is no code. They haven't accepted the order yet. And I'm like, your dealer doesn't have allocation. Well, they told me they have allocation. I was like, they don't have, they may be getting allocation, but if they had allocation, your order would be submitted. You would have at least this code from the plant, and then you would be able to see your vehicle in the GM workbench moving forward on wherever it's at. I was like, go down, talk to your salesman, or actually even better, talk to the person who orders cars and find out what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, they come back, they're like, oh, they only have allocation for LT models or whatever else, you know. And it's like, okay, well, cancel your order, go find a dealership that has a ZL1 allocation, just call them up. Hey, do you have an allocation to order this car right now? And if they can't tell you an honest yes, then go find another dealer, because there's tons of dealers that have them. Just, you know, it's sad, because dealers will do whatever they can to get you to put money down to try to get your sale, and they'll sit on it, not talk to you, not give you any detail or information. And I get people that reach out to me constantly all the time over the years, like, how do I know if my dealer has allocation? Technically, the answer is you can't, unless you're at Chris's dealer who shows you what their allocation is. But to my knowledge, most dealerships don't advertise what they have open orders for.
Okay, so will this car get picked up? Say if they don't have allocation, will it ever? Because to my knowledge, it'll never get picked up.
So it can. So GM can see that the dealership has orders sitting for that. So you can create your vehicle, get it all buttoned up, sitting right there with the salesman, and they can submit that into the system. So GM's like, oh, hey, there's a LT1 with an RS package sitting at this dealership. They don't have allocation. Now, how GM decides how that allocation goes out to that, to be able to fulfill that specific dealership's order, I have no idea how that works.
It's convoluted.
But I do know that, like, Ian, who used to be the ordering guy at our local dealership out here, he's like, I could put in a whole bunch of cars, and as soon as they give us allocation for them, they'll just automatically get picked up. He's like, I don't have to check on them all the time. He's like, but I have a pretty good idea of what they give us, because they give us the same mix of cars all the time, unless there's pending restrictions, or they like don't have manual transmissions, or don't have carbon fiber spoilers, or whatever. You know, like Paradise, I know there was a guy that ordered the C7 Corvette with the carbon fiber like Z07 package, I think it was, like super rare. Like GM was only building 3 of them a quarter, like super limited car. The guy had his allocation on, like, waiting for it to get picked up for 3 years, and it finally got picked up and got built.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at like the C8 Z06, everybody's looking for an allocation for that. My dealer told me the biggest dealers in the country got 2 allocations. That's it.
And aren't those cars on restraint now? So, like, they're not even building the full quantity that they thought they would.
So you're going to be waiting years for those cars.
In case anybody watching this doesn't really know what an allocation is, the dealers don't get to just, the dealers don't get to just call up GM and say, hey, I got a customer who wants a Camaro, right? There's dealer franchise laws and all sorts of weird stuff. Like Chris said, it's convoluted. And so GM has to come up with a plan before they even start building cars that says, we're going to look at sales of If it's a Camaro, we're going to look at last year's sales of Camaro. We're going to look at your sales of Corvette, and if they're higher, we're going to give you more cars in allocation. I'm really simplifying it, and I don't even understand exactly all the details to it. But the dealers don't have much control over it because it's this annoying pre-established thing. If the dealer does not have or they used up all their allocations for the quarter, they can't order your car. They have to wait till the next quarter, see if they get more allocations given to them from GM. If they're lucky, and the quarter ends and a couple dealerships in the country don't use their allocations, then it becomes a free-for-all, and your dealer can get that car, the order placed. But they have to know how to do that, and unfortunately, not a whole lot of dealers do. So it is kind of a crapshoot. It's annoying, but that's where we've been spoiled with people like Becky, and
she'll find them, or she did try to find them
absolutely
all the time.
And there's other backdoor tricks and stuff that I don't even know what she was doing, but you don't want to just go into any old dealership and say, "Hi, do you have an allocation?" And they're going to say, "Yes, we can take your car order."
Yeah.
Probably need to go talk to the manager.
Yes, we'll take your money.
Right, with $2,000 deposit.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a nice dealer markup fee on that too.
Yeah.
Then you coming in 3 months later asking, "Where my car?" after they promised you and it's not there.
Right.
Yeah, until you get an order number, until you get that code, it's not.
And that's why I made my video on it, because it was at my experience, I did try to order my first Camaro, and I went through a new sales guy, actually where Becky D worked at, where she last worked at. And it was a new sales guy. He was like, "Yeah, we can get your order in 3 months." And it was we at the height of the chip shortage. There's no way I'm getting a Camaro in 3 months, like the good old days. And he was like, "Yeah, it's at 1100. I'm like, "What is that?" I kept looking. That's why I went to Camaro 6, got all my information. I'm like, "This has been sitting here for 2.5 months. You guys don't have allocation like you told me." He kept going back and forth, which Camaro 6 is awesome, like the inventory manager. He was like, "How do you know all this?" I didn't even tell him I go to Camaro 6. I'm like, "Man, this is not right." So that's when I went to a different one. Tim Lally, actually in Cleveland. When I placed my order through them over the phone, it was just so easy, transparent. The guy was like, "We've been waiting for people like you to come in with a 1LE because we got 2 on order that shipped right now." I think the Vivid Orange, and there was another one, I think in white. But yeah, that's the reason I made the ordering process, because it's brutal to explain to people. Because if they do not see 2,000, people think once they go in and put their money down, or just 5 or 10,000, they guaranteed to see that vehicle, and it's not the case at all.
Yeah, so when I ordered mine, GM wasn't even building cars. So I had to wait, I think 3 weeks before I actually, my dealer was like, "Here's our allocation." They got 17 cars the first wave, and only 2 of them were SSs. So, and one of them was a 2SS. So mine got picked up right away. So it was the first week of them building, I got I forget all the terms. It's been a while since I've ordered the car, but they had the projection date of when it would be coming off the line. And it actually did follow that line until it got lost after it got built.
So, I'm getting this question more and more all the time. Do you think they're pumping out? And that's part of what doesn't make any sense, right? I know of guys that have gotten cars in, I think, 4 months, which is record breaking at this point. But do you think that they're pumping out more SSs and 1LEs? Well, not the 1LEs because of the constraints, but do you think they're pumping out more 1LTs and SSs than the RV6 and 2-liter cars? Because I know a lot of guys that are waiting a long time for LT cars and 2-liters.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, you might know this, but to my knowledge, GM doesn't build any car that a dealer doesn't order. Do they just "Hey, we have no dealer orders right now, so we're going to build a whole bunch of LTs because that's the parts we have right now." Right. But I think it all comes down to when the God, what the plant. It's like, hey, we have 17 freaking containers of all the parts for LT1 cars. So let's grab all the LT1 allocations, and that's what's rolling down the line today.
Right.
You know, or this week or this shift.
Because I just happened like I've been looking for a car since July. I wanted to get a 2022, but they weren't shipping. They weren't shipping. I wanted to get on that deal with the 2022s, right?
Yeah.
Finally, my dealer, he's like they're just held up, and the 23s are coming in. So he's like, listen, he's like, I've got an order in for a 23, just like the car you want. He goes, I'll put your name on it. We just had it for stock, right? My car was built August 16th, and it got delivered 2 weeks later.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I think it just depends. It just depends what's coming down the line. You know, it's like, hey, today's 1LT day or today's ZL1 day. Like, because I heard from a plant guy, he's like, hey, we got ZL1 1LE spoilers in. He's like, but it's limited. So he's like, literally, he got back to me like 2 days later. He's like, yeah, we made 15 ZL1 1LEs that day. And lo and behold, I'm not even joking. Someone had it like posted on Instagram 2 days later, a truckload of all ZL1 1LEs getting trucked down to the rail yard. And I was like, oh my God, like what this guy told me is true. And here's the picture proof of it literally leaving the plant headed to the rail yard. I was like, I'm like, hey, this guy's a good contact to have.
I'm also hearing there could be some transportation issues happening right now between the plant, trucking, and the rail yard too.
Yeah, weren't they having issues with rail cars coming back? They were saying like the West Coast, there was like 40% of all the rail cars were stuck on the West Coast, or we're having troubles getting them back.
Yeah, but if you're in Michigan, you're getting your car quick.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I would hope so, right? So, you know, and this is, so I put up Martin's comment here because it was one thing that I was pushing. You know, I've never had the luxury of really ordering, custom ordering a car or any of the cars that I've bought. I've kind of, when we bought our Sonic, I kind of just threw the options out there, and the dealer said, okay, well, here, we'll dealer trade this one. I mean, it was 13, so that wasn't a problem back then. But when I got my Camaro, my 2010, I bought it used, and I got a smoking deal on it 2 years old. So, and they really custom ordered it. When I bought my dually back in the day, I bought it right off the lot. So, but I've been pushing the thing where, guys, you know what? Like, I put the link up in one of my videos and said, here's a 2,000 mile spread of dealers that got cars on the lot. And if you don't want to wait, whatever, and maybe you can give up the odd option here and there. It may not be your perfect color, but it'll get you into the car sooner. So we were kind of pushing that, and it looks like Martin kind of did that exact thing because his dealer, he put his money down and didn't get nothing. And then he said he went over to the next town, and there was one sitting on the lot there. So, I mean, good for you. So,
I always found if the dealer has it sitting on the lot, you can get a much bigger deal. And the biggest reason for that is the dealer is actually paying for that car that's sitting on their lot. They've either put money towards it or they're paying it every month to their bank or wherever else, you know, if the owner doesn't have a crap ton of money. It's really weird how that all works. So that, like, when you see a car that's sitting on a lot for like a year or longer, they offer, like, they're just like, dude, just like take it. Like, please, we'll give you 10 grand off. Like right now, just buy this car.
Because a lot of people don't realize that dealers actually buy those cars.
Yeah. Like they have to buy them. And they get good deals. I got to see the paperwork on what they're paying for those cars. And it's like, you know, like they're making healthy margins.
Well, this summer, but looking for cars this summer, if there's a car sitting on a lot, it's because there's a dealer markup on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's over 4,000.
And it's crazy. So, and I talked to my dealer about this, and I was going to do a video on it, but I decided not to because I know not all dealerships go about it this way. But it was turning into like a poaching competition between all the dealerships. So, like, my dealer here in Paradise, they have markups on their car for the people who walk up and are tire kickers. But you want to come in and actually purchase the vehicle, they're going to work with you. You know, they're not going to, they're they're going to sell it to you at MSRP. They might not sell it to you under MSRP like you used to be able to get cars for, or a really willing deal for them. But he was like, I was tired of other dealers poaching our cars or buying our cars off our lot, you know, or customers buying at this dealership versus our dealership, and paying retarded money for it. You know, he's like, I want to be able to keep my cars for our customer base in our area. He's like, so I mark our cars up so those people don't come steal cars that, you know, our customers here want.
Wow.
We're running into this with me being in the supply business, where we have allocation on certain items, certain electrical items and stuff, and because we're a big company, we got stores all over the place. We got customers from other locations, from other geographical areas, trying to get stock from stores that they don't live anywhere near around, and head office at the send an email and say, look, you know, these stores are trying to, you know, they're trying to look after their local customers, right? So don't be sending customers from 200 miles away, you know, to buy that store's product, right? Because, I mean, some of the electrical products are coming in. I was getting, you know, pre-COVID, I was getting 12 or 14 pieces a year. Now I'd be lucky if I got 2 or 3 a year, right? So creates a large backup. And so, and I can relate to it. So another Rapid Blue fan for you guys. I ordered a 22 Z01 last September. Dealer forgot to change to automatic. Car showed up in July with wrong transmission and no PDR.
That's just
actually, isn't PDR on restraint? You can't even get it. I
thought they'd stop it, but yeah, I think it is.
That's one of those that come on and come off. It's very iffy on those PDRs because I've been trying. I luckily have one in mine, but I was on constraint for it for like 4 months. That was holding my car back. But it's one of those on and off items.
It's crazy.
But
yeah, I got lucky. I mean, I know
like yours order could have been resolved, Dark Side, if they gave you like your work order bench. Then you know exactly what you have on your car, which I don't know why salesman doesn't give it to you, but
yeah, they should have gave that to you when you ordered it. Just print it out and it'll tell you every spec and detail on the car.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to talk down this Jeep dealership $10,000 when we got our Wagoneer. So at least you can haggle and daggle car dealerships these days.
It seems like it's going like that now because the interest rates are going up, right? Where like the car market is kind of softened overall.
They were offering 0% interest.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah.
You rarely see those.
Just catching up with some comments here. But
I think the market's getting a little desperate to sell cars. I've noticed our Chevy dealership, while they're still lacking in the Camaro world and getting cars, like they actually have trucks on the lot finally. You know, like they would get 1 or 2s here and there, mostly work trucks, never really the nicer, you know, higher end models. But our dealership's got like probably 30, 40 trucks on their lot right now. That's the most I've seen in a long time, years.
So as Dark Side, I see Mark going through some of these. I know he said that his order has been accepted based on the GM chat. Like the GM chat is so vague. You need to ask them specifically, like what order status is it in? Because just because it got accepted, that means it's got accepted from a dealer, but it's not accepted all the way through. Like 2000 would actually going to build it.
Yeah, you can put an order in and technically have it accepted as the order, but until it's picked up by the factory, It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the GM chat going to be very vague on that.
Every order is accepted. Did the plant accept it and pick it up? That's the question. Sometimes you just have to ask the question the right way.
Yeah.
Transportation is a mess.
Yeah, it makes no rhyme nor reason. I mean, going back to, I know there's somebody else in there other than Mike was having that problem. I think somebody told me they're still waiting. They're up to 2 months waiting for it to be shipped, ready to go.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
You know, and then you get the car and they're like, oh, by the way, it's $2,000 more or whatever, right? So it's I think the big thing here is the markups, right? Like up here in Canada, we don't have that problem because you can't sell over MSRP. Now there are ways around it that dealers are doing, but I would say 97% of the stuff going on, the car dealers can't sell over MSRP when they're new.
Yeah, but
So,
Are you allowed to
you guys
cross
end
the
up paying
border
more?
and buy a U.S. car?
sorry, what's that?
Are you able to cross the border and buy a U.S. car?
No, you have to. Well, you can. There is a way around it. So I have a friend who lives up here, but also has an address in Florida. So he bought a C8 Vet down there, but he had to leave it down there for 6 months before he could bring it home.
Oh,
Oh wow.
So there are ways around it.
I know my buddy Kyle or Maple Fed on Instagram. He's a dual resident, and he bought his Camaro in Canada, but drives it here in the States, and that saves him on a lot of things, just because the law is up in Canada versus down here in California. It's nice.
I know dealers is doing this weird thing now that a friend was telling me that to avoid them from doing markups, they're having them buy all these weird packages that he doesn't even need or whatever. That's I'm saying.
So I think the big thing up here that from what I got from everybody was so the dealer can put the car on the road as a demo, and then once it gets to a certain amount of mileage on it, they can sell it as a used car, and then they can sell it for whatever they want. That's the workaround, right? But then again, it has to have so many miles on it, right? So
Yeah, I know the last 5th Gen Z28, a dealership up in Canada came down to our dealership here in Paradise. They had a black one and a white one sitting on the showroom, like almost 8 months after production had stopped on those cars. And they came down and picked them both up for like 55 grand each.
dang.
And brought them right back up to Canada. So I don't know how they convert that or what they have to do to get them legal to sell in Canada, but
just going through some stuff here.
They did, but it changed.
For proving grounds. Yeah, just putting some comments up here from chat. This is the last one here. Yeah, so I mean, what do you guys think? Are we in this for another? What do you think? When do you think the backlog gets filled? Is it 12 months out? Is it 18 months out?
when the car goes out of production.
No, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, if we're talking 12 to 18 months out, I mean,
I know, Chris.
it's not looking good.
The rumors I'm hearing, 2023 is going to be a full year. Well, minus all of the setbacks and plant close downs, whatever. And potentially 2024 being the last year for Camaro, and it will be a short year.
Yeah,
So it'll be 2024 and a half, kind of like how the Camaro started as a 70 and a half.
Right. Now, does that change? I mean, and we all talked about, Camaro, GM's got lots on the shelf. Do you guys think anything changes now with that 2024 Mustang being an internal combustion engine motor or car and not electric? Do you think that changes anything for GM?
No, GM's on their path.
No.
They've said it. They came out a while ago saying after the Volt, there's like, we tried the hybrids. We don't see a long-term future to keep investing in this. And they said by 2023, they're going to have 7 or 8 full electric models. And they seem to be on that path.
Yeah, they're pushing it zero emissions. What is that? Zero. I forgot what it all stands for. But that's what they're really advocating for sure.
They've closed down a very large chunk of their powertrain division.
Yeah.
They've put these people into electric and battery and motor development. They have significantly restructured the company to go electric.
Well, and look at the bat log. Like, so I don't know how much of you guys look at the aftermarket resale stuff, but even so, all of the LS motor stuff has all been transitioned to basically being made in China. So they're no longer being made here in the States or up in Canada, and a lot of that stuff is like huge back order logs for it because the transition of shutting it down where it was made versus now being made overseas is all happening right now. So like you can't even get LS7 blocks outside of what Summit had like a couple weeks ago. The LS3 national back orders, like I want to say there was like 350 plus engines, and they only had 60 that were in production to meet that demand. Like the stupid stuff I go looking for and look at, like I'm just like, oh wow, yeah, they are starting these crazy transitions and moving stuff over.
The other thing too is that it's not just about the Camaro. Unfortunately,
it's everything.
It's the profile. Because the way the law works, it's called corporate average fuel economy. It's not a specific model. So if they don't have their portfolio set up in such a way to meet that regulation, then cars start getting the axe, or they have to change production levels or whatever. And other companies have got around it because they're buying carbon credits and stuff, and they're not cheating. That's the game, but they opted to just. That's like Dodge. That's how Dodge has got around with no electric or hybrid stuff for so many years. But GM has wanted to do all their own, like in their bubble, they're going to take care of themselves. And it's just reflected in that.
But did they take care of themselves, or did the government step in?
Kennedy has always been the monster in the room over the years.
Do you guys think that we're going to see a big bump for the 24 collector's edition, like horsepower? Do you think there's something big coming for 24? What's your opinion?
I think Chris is shaking his head. From what I initially heard, the team had grand aspirations. They really wanted to make it something special, but it sounds like everything has just been squashed.
Yeah,
like
nope.
It
sounds like Camaro is on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounds like.
The amount
like we might get a color.
We'll get a collector's edition yellow color, limited to 2,000.
God, why does it have to be yellow?
I don't know why.
I know, right?
I don't know who picked that. This is what we're hearing. We wrote that.
I want to know who picked it. You yellow show your face.
I don't know if it's. I don't.
They're going to reuse all the leftover Bumblebee stickers.
Oh yeah.
See, and I thought, and I know it's expensive to do mid-generation refreshes. I know it's expensive, but I thought for sure this year we were going to see, another refresh where it would kind of carry us into the sunset, and then, it didn't show up, and I was like, I don't know. I just, based on what I've seen in the past with GM, okay, we'll see another one, but it never happened. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Did they do anything like that before they came out with the 5th gen? Did they give like a special collector edition, or they just cut it off?
No, they did an 02. That's why some of us are joking about yellow, because the Trans Am was yellow and black, and some guys liked it, but not a lot of people were like, what did this? I don't know.
What year? They did a commemorative edition Camaro, and that was supposed to signify the end of the 5th generation.
Yeah, but it wasn't the end. It wasn't the end of Camaro, though.
No,
it
was
he's
the end
talking
of
for the
5th
4th
generation.
gen. Yeah.
Okay.
But when did the ZL1 come out on the 4th gen? Wasn't that the second to the last year, or was that earlier in the cycle?
On the 4th gen?
Yeah.
There wasn't.
So there was a company out of Georgia who actually did a ZL1 Camaro, and that was in early 2000. So like 2001 is when they put this ZL1 package together.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a GM. It wasn't a Chevrolet.
It was kind of like the SLP version in the Gen 5. Yeah. It was, before the GM Z01 come out, the SLP Z01 come out at 750 horsepower. The thing was just a monster. right?
Yeah,
But
so there was a company called GMMG out of Georgia, and they did all these ZL1s. They did Berger cars. They did hot rod cars. They did some
Basically,
special
like
edition Trans Ams.
like the old school Yenkos of.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, wasn't the original Yenko put together with parts that were ordered from GM, regardless.
Yes.
So I guess it wouldn't be quite the same. But.
I just, before we pack her up here, I guess I just want to say that, based on, when you look at the 5th gen stuff, we had so much involvement with SLP and I just don't, I never seen that with the 6th gen cars. And I don't know if that's because SLP went to SVE and they kind of just steered away from GM. There's Lingenfelter and there's a pile of other companies, but they're not directly working with GM the way the 5th gen cars were, right? And I don't know how much it makes up a market or how much it makes up of sales. It's probably not much. But looking at the numbers overall from 16 to date, it's kind of like, well, that might have something to do with why the numbers were lower. Even though I didn't start out particularly as a 6th gen fan. I'm more into them now in the later end, but I don't get it. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that.
I think a lot of it has to do with how GM started pushing forward Chevrolet Performance as their own internal division to do fun stuff to cars. And I don't know if that ever really got to materialize as far as they wanted to. They seem to really put focus on the Copo side of things as well, which was cool. At the end of the day, we got to see some really, really cool stuff that they could do. But I agree. I think, outside of like Hennessy or whatever they created, but that wasn't a creation alongside GM. That was just a builder trying to do something fun.
Right. Even the Yenko one, because I thought that was a special order, right?
But it's not. It's a dealership special build. It has nothing to do with GM. Yeah. I still get people that send me pictures. Actually, a guy just did the other day. Guy, I forget who it was that sent me. My coworker. He saw a Yenko and he's like, "Did you see this one?" And I'm like, dude, that's not even like cool like the original Yenkos anymore. If it's not a 1969, I don't want to see it. And not like some people really like that stuff, and that's awesome. Like I totally support your love for what those companies do, and those are awesome cars, but they're not what Mark is talking about. They're not what like the original Yenko was, where it was like special ordering actual GM parts and assembling them and making them work.
It's completely aftermarket now.
Yeah, it's 100% aftermarket. And I did know the 4th gen one was made by them, but it's funny that the 4th gen guys have basically made me believe like it's a real Z01, but it's not. Because I forget what Instagram posts are like. Don't forget about the 4th gen. And I was like, what are you talking? GM never made a Z01 4th gen.
GM never did. No.
They're like GMMG or whatever that company is. GMMG.
Technically, they never made a ZL1 car ever. Even the 1st gen was essentially like the Copo is what it was called.
Yeah.
This is the engine designation.
The RPO code.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was the 5th gen was the first time they ever called a car that.
I have a picture from when we were at the 2011 Auto Show where we had that SLP ZL1, and we had
that Canadian Z. Sorry.
Yeah. And then we had a 69 ZL1 side by side, which led kind of the main hallway. And I have a picture of it, and I was trying to find it for this, but I can't find it. I'll put it up on one of my community pages. But that was pretty cool because I was still learning a lot at the time about the whole ZL1 thing, and Joe's right. So it was a check of a box or whatever, or it wasn't a check of a box. Sorry. So pretty cool though to learn all the history on that part.
Well, here's a funny quick story I can share, and Joe's part of it. When they unveiled the new Z28 in New York, Joe and I inadvertently got that information before anybody else knew about it, and then we were quickly ushered and told to keep quiet and don't say anything, because
Many
what happened
men
was
in
they
the
put us up in
suits.
this hotel and they gave us a press packet in the morning. So of course during breakfast I'm reading over the press packet and it says the return of the Z28, and I was like, holy! I go, no, did you read? He goes, yes, I did. And then was it Scott or was it was a Mark? What's his face? You go up and they go, man, I didn't know you guys. And they're like,
Yeah, it was. Oh gosh, what was his last
say
name?
Mark. He was the guy who did the
Stilo. Mark
Mark
Stilo.
Stilo. Yes.
Yeah, I'd never seen a grown man go white in the face quite so fast.
Oh man.
Honestly, so yeah, I got the same press packet in the morning. I was in a Suburban getting taken to the Javits Center, and one of the top brass guys from Cadillac was sitting next to me, and he was talking to another executive about New York City market and Cadillac, and so I was totally zoned out. And I'm reading this thing, and I read the same thing you did. Return of Z28 LS7 7,000 RPM. Like, what? They had invited enthusiasts. This is again the good old days. They had invited enthusiasts to be part of a special reveal, and they didn't tell anybody what it was. There weren't even rumors about the Z28 at that point. And so I saw this. I don't think I talked to you yet about it though. When I went up to Mark Stilo and I said, I'm so impressed. I can't wait to see what you guys came up with. The Z28 is going to be a lot of fun. And he just went pale.
Yeah,
And
what are you talking about?
I don't know how they set up their shows now, but Chevy's display was a really long, narrow corridor with cars on either side and like a central aisle. And I will never ever forget this. I just entered. Mark must have told somebody what I came up to him with, and I locked eyes with Scott Settlemeyer on the opposite side of the room, and he just walked straight at me. I thought for sure I was going to get carried away with a bag over my head. He goes, he walked up right next to me. He didn't even look at me. It was like this weird Russian exchange. He stood next to me and he goes, I understand you have some information that you shouldn't. Said, he goes, may I have it, please? So I gave him the binder and he walked away. And like 20 minutes later, he came back and he goes, you haven't posted this anywhere, right? And I said, no, I did. I know better, right? I we want to get information out to people, but at the same time, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds us, right?
Exactly.
They had just invited enthusiasts to this event. I'm not going to spoil it. And that at that point, I think I had talked to you and I said, did you get the same book I got?
It was like,
oh my God, it was hilarious. And then they revealed it and I'm kind of standing in the back going, yeah, I knew about that.
because when I talked to Al afterwards, he goes, I don't know if you saw me. I was sitting in the front row and I had all your guys' websites up on my phone and I kept refreshing and refreshing to make sure nobody got this news out before. He goes, and of course, when Mark Royce, unveiled it, it was a complete surprise to everybody there.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's a cool story. I love stories like that. That's like the best.
And I guess that was part of the, that was part of the attraction to, certainly when Scott come to our 10th show. I mean, Scott and I are having dinner and we're talking about different stuff and different, and I was like, okay, I felt honestly like I was being brought into the CIA or something. It was like, I mean, by then it was already out and stuff, but those are the times, man. I'm telling you, like you would go down to the shows and these guys were more fortunate than I was because they were getting it quicker than I was. I wasn't privy to any of that stuff, but I can, based on the stuff that I have gotten, I can almost picture how that conversation went when they were like, yeah, you're going to give me that binder and we're not going to talk about this.
I kept mine. I never gave it up.
Did they give you your binder back, Joe?
I did ask to get it back after the event was over. I have it in a box in my closet. I wanted to save that.
I still got my Z28 pin they gave us too with that same
Nice.
That's awesome.
The same happened when the 5th gen was about to be unveiled. there was talks of it. There was lots of rumors the summer before summer of 2015, and all of a sudden one day, me and Jason get an email with a picture of the 5th gen on a turntable at the tech center, and it had 2 different sides to it. So one side looked a little bit different than the other side, and me and Jason said, "What the hell?" So immediately we called Scott, and Scott's like, "Send that to me. Let me look at it. It's probably fake." He calls right back. He goes, "Do not send that to anybody. Someone is going to be fired today."
Oh man.
Apparently an engineer took a picture while they were out. They called it clown suiting. So what they do is they fit the car. It was a clay model, and they do two different renderings, I guess, of the car, and then they put it on a turntable. And someone took a picture of them while they were doing that and sent it to us. And yeah, that was pretty bad.
I'm trying to find a picture real quick while we talk about that, but anyways, it's not important. But so I had the opportunity when we were at Performance World, and I had one of their CET cars, I guess you'd call it. They were pre-production. What do you call it? What did you call it? What do you guys call them, Chris? The concept. They were concept CPP cars. Anyways,
the CT, the whatchamacallit,
they were concept
test vehicles. See the captive test vehicles.
Yeah, captive test vehicles. That's it. Yeah, CTV cars. So these were CTV cars that we had for Performance World to put, to put in our booth. So they let me drive it home. So I had it in the driveway, and doesn't one of the cops come by and taking a slow drive up mine? I didn't live in a cul-de-sac at the time, right? And I don't know what she was doing, but anyway, she was just driving through, and all of a sudden I see her stop right in front of my house as I was getting out of the car. And I thought, okay, great. Somebody's called the cops, and here I am going to get busted, right? No, the car wasn't out yet. So she wanted to see the car, and she's like, "I heard about this car. I heard it was coming out. Do you mind if I thought I was getting busted, and all she cared about was sitting in the car," right? And so that's how much attention that this car got, where this car wasn't even out yet. And then here's this cop pulling up going, "Can I sit in this thing?" Because I knew it was coming. I think it was because it was at the auto show. The final was at the auto. I think the silver one was at the auto show, where you could walk up to it, but you couldn't touch it, right? And here I was. I had this test car in my driveway, and the cop just wanted to sit in it and see what it was like, because she was going to order one. So, it was amazing. So
the 5th generation car, when it came out, it was an absolute rock star. It was an absolute rock star. I remember the winter before it was actually out, Scott had one car. He had a CTF car, and then John Fitzpatrick and Cheryl Pilcher had another car, and they came over to our house so we could test drive them. And we had some fun in the cars, and then we put some pictures up online afterwards, and we got attacked by Jalopnik. Jalopnik was so mad. They were like, "Forum fanboys get to drive Camaro before anybody else," and then GM made us take the thing down until I guess there was an embargo out. So they never told us. We were just having fun.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
So my one thing that I think I stumbled upon that I wasn't supposed to. So I forget the link, but GM had a back end where you could basically search a database of all of the updates that they apply to their cars. And it's like every vehicle in this database, and it's wide open. Technically it's for the dealers, but it's an open link to the world. Like, you don't have to have a credentialed login or anything like that. And I'm flipping through all the Camaro stuff, and I stumble across the I think it was the 2018 Hot Wheels edition, the commemorative 50th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, did I miss something? And so I'm like, I'm Google, and I'm looking it up, because I'm literally looking at schematics of all of the details for where the badging placement goes, what it looks like, colors. Like, I'm like, I think someone effed up. I think someone uploaded something in this backend and it's not supposed to be there. And so I'm like downloading all the images and everything. Like, I'm like, this is news. I'm like, I haven't had news like this before ever. I'm like, oh wait. I'm like, do I post this news? Am I going to get in trouble if I post this news? Because I'm literally looking for it and no one's talking about it. So I shoot a video and I think I shot it as like Hot Wheels edition or like spring edition Camaro because it was around that time frame. And knowing I had the pictures of it, and I'm pretty sure it was spoiling Hot Wheels announcement because it seemed like the way everything was lined up is Hot Wheels was announcing it and GM was basically building a car to commemorate it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble for posting this video. I shouldn't post this video. I posted the video, but lo and behold, about 2 hours before I flipped my video live, someone else leaked it, like leaked the content. So I'm like, oh, it wasn't me. Like, it just looked like I made the video after the content was already leaked. And I mean, you could tell that I had shot the video previously because I had a little more information in my video than what was actually revealed from the other leak. But it was like, I don't think I ever got GM's wrath, pointed my way because of the timing was just like perfect. Yeah. So I was like, oh, great. There's been plenty of other videos I'm sure GM hates me for, but
that's one good thing. The GM's, part, they've never really went after anybody before. And I think they've known what an asset we are to them because of all the stuff we do for them. So, I mean, because I couldn't tell you how many times people would say, oh, you own CamaroZ28.com. GM's going to come and sue you, and they're going to take that domain and everything.
Oh, yeah. So, speaking of that, I remember when we did our logo, right? I thought, oh, shit, you know what? Because I got the name in there, and then I got the pony car emblem. I'm like, I was scared as shit there for a while to go around anybody GM because I thought for sure they were coming after us because we had Camaro in the word. In the pony car, and then finally, like I think it was Scott that said after, like, you know what, I love your logo on color, like it is phenomenal. And I thought, you're okay with it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I thought GM would get mad for me saying Lethal Camaro, like just having Camaro in my channel name or whatever. And that's honestly why I created Lethal Garage. But when I realized GM never was going to care about it, I was like, why did I do that? But it was too late. I already created a business and all that junk all in the Lethal Garage name. So
the only thing they tend to get a little weird about is when you start merchandising. So you can't go make a
But did you know? So this baffles my mind. So certified GM product, you could take your product to an office down here in San Diego, and like if they look at your product, you're like, yeah, it looks like quality. You can pay for the stupid GM certified sticker,
right? Because
that's how we do our event shirts. So
it's so weird. I was like, wait, it's this simple? They're like, yeah,
it's just money. I mean, really, as long as it's not going to be a crap product, it's just money.
Yeah, right. I was like, then I started thinking, I'm like, maybe I'll do Lethal Garage T-shirts. No.
When we started Camaro Fest, we were a little concerned about it, but it wasn't this big thing that we were going to try and make money off of. So it was like I said, it was just supposed to be this gather,
Camaro get together.
That's all it was. And we didn't even collect money. Like I said, it was all at the gate. Anyways, somehow along the process, I wasn't really deeply involved with the first one. It was Chris and Chris Valdez and a couple of the other moderators from Camaro 5 that were doing that from that area. And somehow we got talking to GM about it, to Chevy. And if you remember, Matt, I don't know if you were really paying attention to stuff at that point, but Chris, you'd remember the caravan that the Camaro team took from Michigan, drove their cars from Michigan down to Georgia. They were Instagramming and Facebooking the whole way down. What was the first green color called? Was that
Synergy,
Krypton?
Synergy Green.
Synergy.
Green, yeah.
Synergy Green. They brought down the Synergy Green cars. They brought down convertibles. It was the first time anybody had ever seen them. They were stopping at gas stations. People were, asking. That was the first time I thought, okay, this is probably going to be all right. They kind of like it. And then this year, we did our event shirts, and if you remember that rendering that GM Design released, it kind of, people were calling it the Z28. It was just a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, even.
The red one.
Yeah, it was like burnt orange red or something like that. It looked Z28-ish, right?
Yeah.
We thought that was a really cool looking car, and they haven't really put out anything new in the last couple of years, which we like to do on our event shirt. So we put that on there, and I figured they're going to catch it. So we submitted it to the, certified GM product thing, and they approved it, and we put it out. So,
well, technically it's an approved image because it's in public domain. So
they published it. Yeah, I can't get mad at me for using something you put out.
So I heard from 3 different people that sketch rendering was, and I don't know if it's true, but when 3 people tell me the same thing, like not with me probing for it, it makes me believe it's true. But they say that is a concept of what the Z28 could or would have looked like for the 6th generation. And because I asked them, I'm like, what do you do? Like, what would the hood be like when I was going down the rabbit hole of the LT5 and the LT2, or not LT2, whatever engine upgrades and stuff, and they're like, you've already seen it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you've already seen it. It's images are out there of it. I'm like, what are you talking? And I went back to that stupid. I'm like, this freaking image, and he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my god. So I don't know, and it makes me really mad. Like, and I'm talking about stuff we talked about earlier, but it's hard running a channel where you like to break news, and I'm sure you get this a lot, Chris, where people, you don't know the source. A lot of anybody from GM wants to be anonymous most of the time, and I'm sure you have your contacts at GM that don't need to be anonymous because that's their job. Like, they are media or press or talk to press or whatever. But I know people that work at the plants are like, please never say my name, like, ever. Like, even if it's information that's normal information, like, just never say my name, because I will probably get fired. And it sucks, but it's like, you get these tips, you get this information, and sometimes it's too good to be true, and other times it's information that's like, holy crap, like, this guy knows, he's saying the right thing, saying the right people's names, saying everything right. And it's like, you kind of put your name on the line by going out and saying stuff and thinking it's real, and maybe it was real and GM pulled it back or whatever. But I had that big dilemma with the LT2 LT5 stuff, where the information that I was being fed was being verified by multiple people, and at the last moment, and unfortunately my mom passed away during the time where he messaged me where things were rough or bad, and we're saying like, hey, everything the team has been pitching forward and doing is all got shot down. Like, everything shot down. GM's just killing the car. And it's frustrating, because it's like, you make this content, you think it's going to be real, and you start getting deeply excited. You're like, oh my god, they're going to do something amazing, and it's going to be awesome final year. And then it's like,
things change so quickly sometimes, which is wild, because other things take forever to make a difference. But do you remember,
look at just the website alone?
Yeah. You remember when the ZL1 came out for the 5th gen, it was supposed to be called, and it was badged physically, Z28.
Yeah.
I heard that.
2 weeks before it was put out, they rebadged it, and it was just a Mark Royce thing. He came down and was, no, that's not a Z28. Change the name.
Was it the Chicago Auto Show? They made the call right before they showed it.
Yeah. Like, they actually had to peel the badges off and change it. Like, this is not going to be called Z28.
Yeah, I think it was it 2012? They said that a lot of the pieces are still stamped Z28.
Yeah. There's like something with the radiator and the grill. There's something underneath there that says Z28 on the casting.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I didn't know that. Wow.
That's new. I never heard that. I mean, I heard that they changed the name, but I never knew about potential castings or stampings or anything like that.
Yeah, well, you figure all that stuff
Has to
it's
be
easy enough to
years.
peel off stickers and badges.
You
But
can't
that
redo
stuff
a metal
was-
cast. Like, that's
No, that
expensive
was-
as hell.
all the injection
Hey,
stuff.
We
Yeah,
need to redo all this stuff. It's like, that's going to cost millions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but this was speaking of a CTF. This was the first convertible ZL1, a CTF car. It was at our show in 2012 for our 10th show.
That's cool.
Yeah, those are nice. One of my club
Scotty
members
brought
got one.
that.
I got invited to the media event for the launch of the convertible ZL1, and then they also did it for the 1LE at the same time, and that was in 2013.
that was at Gingerman, wasn't it?
That was at Gingerman. Yeah.
You know what gives me faith that things could change or whatever, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but I heard the 19 front end, and actually I think we heard it from Al himself at Camaro Fest, where he was actually the main person that drove changing over the front end to update it for 20, 21, 22, I guess, until the car's done. But it's funny because that whole front end's modular, so you can take that front cover piece off, and the pass through for the logo in the bumper is still there in the crash bar or in the padding of the crash.
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, because when they showed that front end at SEMA that year, and they're like, "You got to change it. You got to change
I
it."
know, right? We were all saying that.
Though. I'm surprised it was bad because doesn't it mimic the Transformer car? Because the Transformer version had the badge like right in the middle,
It did.
like the 19.
Yeah,
All the Transformer movies foreshadowed the next
everything that happened in that update.
Yeah, it wasn't identical, but it foreshadowed. Even the wing on the ZL1 kind of popped off of one of those things.
Yeah.
I still think I may bury myself by saying this, but I think if they do a commemorative edition or final edition that's yellow, I'm almost willing to bet that low-rise spoiler that was in development or did show up at one point that didn't end up on the 1LE is going to be on that car. I think I know Al hated it. I remember specifically at the first Camaro Fest I went to, I asked him the question about it, and he's like, "We only put functional products on our cars." And he got you could tell like he was so mad that I asked the question about it because I love the way it looked. It was the 1LE spoiler, but like that high off the deck lid.
Useless.
I know. Yeah, I know, but I'm known for putting useless crap on my cars. It wasn't as crazy obvious, I'm like, hey, think of it for just the street guy that's trying to make his car look better. Just release it. You guys made it. You designed the product. It's on a car. Like,
there's so many fun little Easter eggs in this stuff, and like the third stanchion on the ZL1 1LE wing is completely useless. They do not need it there. The only reason it's there is to cover the screw hole
for the trunk.
Deck lid.
The trunk.
For the rest of the spoilers, that
Really,
build a separate deck lid.
It's just the SS one, right?
I think so. Yeah, whatever has the other one that has a third post.
The LTs
actually need
the LTs have like a crap ton of holes. I'm like, why is there so many holes on this little baby spoiler? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, they were trying to save a couple bucks and not make a new deck lid.
Oh man,
it's funny how the tech changes though. You think about when the last 15 or 14, 15 Z28 was out, right? And you think it was so much, it was such a good car, it was fast and this and that, and then you compare that to the ZL1. Like for track performance and all that ZL1 blows that Z28 away. Like night and day. That's how much far advanced the tech has come in just a couple of years.
It's amazing what taking 300 pounds out of a car does.
Well, it's amazing what they were able to make that 5th gen Z28 do on that Zeta platform. Like that was not an easy platform to do, and man, they made miracles on that car. I think a lot of it had to do with those super sticky tires, but Oh man, that car's still so nice. I would love to have a Z28.
Yeah, I
I've
would
said that
too.
many times, and I
The
had
first-
many opportunities to snag one up at a good price, and now I'm just shooting myself in the foot because they're so expensive now.
The first domino was the 1LE. It was an internal project they called Yellow Jacket, and they weren't supposedly, this is a story I heard, they weren't supposed to be making that. It was built in conjunction with the ZL1 development. They were using leftover parts, so it didn't cost anything, and nobody knew anything.
Yep.
And when the ZL1 was done, and they had the 1LE, the SS1LE built up, they presented it to the executives and said that we want to build this too. And they loved it, and they said, "Don't ever do that again."
And what a deal! It was only like $3,500 for the 1LE option.
Yeah,
What a
Yeah.
deal that was.
yeah. But I think that was the domino that started all the track models. That was when they started moving sway bar positions, because they actually tried to put the car on track and go, no, we can do this better. And those guys were so passionate about what they did.
Yeah.
It's cool though. I'm glad we got those cars. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to the
bang for
old.
buck car too.
I mean,
man.
it's really like they went back to the first generation where it was a race. It was to make the performance car on the track, and they were racing every weekend. And it really felt like that team brought that forward. And like towards the end of the 5th gen with the Z28, which now the story of the ZL1 potentially being a Z28 and the name got changed, it makes me wonder where at in development did the Z28 actually become. Like, we're like, well, if we're not calling that the Z28, then what's this track specific car going to be called? Is that how the Z28 just got its name? And what was the name for that before it was the Z28? That's like, these are all the dumb questions I have for Al right now. I'm just making a list. I'm going to one day convince him to talk to me online and do this.
Let's write a book with him.
Right?
Okay.
God.
It goes to show you what incredible engineers that they had that were racers, like Aaron Link, Bill Wise, and those guys were just.
Do those guys still work there though, or have they moved
do.
on? So what are they? They have to be doing something just as cool, right? Like, come on.
I think Bill went to Corvette. I think he was working on the Z06. I don't know what happened to Aaron.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see. It's like everybody's like, "Oh, the Camaro team's disband." I'm like, they're still there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We could get them together on a Saturday evening and come up with something.
Do you think we see a Z28 next year for what could be the final?
I heard from the grapevine, Mark is actually the one who killed that. He's like, we don't need another track car. The ZL1 1LE killed what could have been the Z28 for the 6th gen. Is basically the words that I heard.
Z28 in general, right? Do we see a special commemorative Z28 come back?
I wish.
I think we'll see a sticker and paint. That's it.
It's going to be like the
I don't
2nd
see
gen
nothing
fake
more.
Z28. Actually, wait, was it the 78 Z28 that was like the fake Z28? What year was that one? Like they just badged it, but it didn't really have any special nothing on it.
I think that was a 78, 79.
Yeah.
It was literally a sticker.
Yeah.
And it didn't have a dash either, or a slash.
Yeah, it was like it. They just straight up was like, yeah, this is fake Z28.
It's a Chinese reproduction. No
It's a
slash.
Chinese- Oh, let's be nice. Let's call it the Taiwanese reproduction.
You know, I'm just grateful that tech has become what it's become. I mean, I remember the 4th gens with the, when they tried to put the traction control in it, and anybody who's had a 4th gen will remember, especially if it wasn't a stick, it was an automatic, and you had the traction control on, and it would almost break your ankle when it kicked in. It was that abrasive. And it's like now it just kind of, my truck goes around the corner, it cuts the power. It doesn't break your ankle or anything. You know what I mean? Where before that 4th gen LS1 with the traction control, it would almost break your ankle. It was that abrasive, where now it's so much better. So
Camaro historian said the Z28 died when the engine died. Oh, that's why I put an LS7 in my second gen, is because of the Z28 5th gen and the Z06 Corvette. But yeah,
Yeah, they
LS7.
did come out with one.
LS7
What
for
engine they
life.
put in there? That's what makes you wonder. Like, if they did come out with a Z28, what engine would they put?
But I got hopeful because they redid the they redid the LS7. They upgraded it, had more power, had everything. I was like, oh, that could go in the Camaro.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're gonna do it. I'm like, but it's really not that much more power than the LT. Like direct inject kind of just really took over everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would they put an old LS motor in a new like everything's LT? So it didn't make sense to me. But and of course they didn't, because they killed it. What, 6 months later they stopped production of the new upgraded LS7.
Yeah,
It's
discontinued
interesting
it.
that you mentioned the ZL11 LE kind of killed the possibility of a Z28, because there's not much more chassis stuff you can do to a car than that car already has done to it. It's got the tires, and the LT4. I mean, yeah, it's supercharged. It's forced inducted, but it's a really good engine, and they got that car to not overheat. So it was like, it is hard to top it. It'd still be fun to see.
It would
What happened
be
if they decided to
really
do
cool
twin
to see.
turbos? That'd be different.
No. That if they had a Z20, like I just felt like it needed an NA variant, and maybe they couldn't make a ZL1 NA variant that much more better than an SS1LE. Maybe that was the problem, even with more power. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, nor do I understand that side of things, but I still think it would have been really cool to have a Z28 NA monster that just like that 5th gen. When you see that thing roll up, even to this day, you're like, yes, all of that. I want that. Like it's like looking at a beautiful woman. You go from head to toe. You're like,
yeah.
And then you hear the motor, and you're just like, yep.
Yeah,
427 out the factory, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of guys will miss the most, is buying that new, right? But again, I've said many times, I am intrigued by the electric side of it. I mean, I could see a lot of guys taking an older Camaro or something to throw an electric retro kit in it. It's not for everybody, I get, right? But to see, perhaps say a 3rd gen or a 2nd gen with an electric retrofit kit in it, like smoke the tires, and be 4-second, 0 to 60. Like it is kind of interesting, but I think it's the, that 420, like you said, that 427 sound that everybody will miss.
You got to read that comment from Where's the Dollar.
Oh,
you put it up. It's already put up.
Yeah.
I think GM loves EVs, trucks, Corvettes, and Amelia. That is so. And this goes back to Chris talking about how they disbanded that loyalty group, or I forget the name that you gave it. I apologize. I honestly think when GM switched to that new agency, the agency convinced GM that they needed to listen to the TikTokers, the top YouTube, like top name influencers. And if you look at their marketing campaigns, that's exactly what they did. They sent those people cars, and still to this day, they do the same thing. They don't work with the small people, the actual blue collar workers that made the Camaro a popular brand, a popular nameplate, anymore. They just go for whoever they think can drive reach. And it bugs me. It makes me sad that, I have to go see an Amelia Hartford talk about a Z06 and not, some passionate guy that's been tied up in Corvette for 50 plus years and knows everything about them. And maybe that's too hardcore for GM these days. Maybe it is, but go find Joe Blow off the street who actually will be excited and not paid to be excited. Like it. And I think all companies are guilty of this these days. They're so into, and you have to be a huge influencer. And I don't consider myself a huge influencer. And a lot of people tell me like, oh, you influenced my purchase on my Camaro or whatever. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad I shine light on something that made you fall in love with this nameplate. But, I'll never be to the level of the people that GM works with. And so it's like, I'll never get the opportunity to go see stuff behind the scenes or, you know, like I secretly really wanted that for the 6th gen. I mean, but even then I was such small potatoes, small fry channel. It was like, whatever. I'm just going to stick with what I do best. Create videos and help people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, Anthony lost something. So I was going to try and keep, I was trying to keep everybody to, or keep us around an hour because I thought we all had something to do. But you know what? Honestly, I've enjoyed all this. And it's felt very organic and very natural having you guys here and just shooting the shit, and it's been fantastic. So, listen, I'm game to sit here and chat all night, but I'm sure some of these guys have stuff to do. Some of you guys have stuff to do. So I think we put a wrap on it soon, but I want to go over with each of you. Is there something you guys got coming up that you want to share? And I want to thank everybody in chat for being with us for 3 hours and being and participating in chat. And it's kind of blown by, right? But you guys have been very engaging and really appreciate it. So make sure you hit that thumbs up. And like I said, make sure you go and check everybody's channels out. Joe is, I don't know. Joe, are you trying to push Camaro Fest on YouTube that big? I mean, you guys are more web-based, but
yeah, at this point we're probably more on Instagram and Facebook. I guess the only thing we got coming up here is we're gonna try and get some shirts out to people off season. So we're working on a design for a shirt to let people grab online. I don't know exactly when it's going to hit, but we'll post things out. Camaro Fest for next year is on. It always is. We're working.
I'm not having any more kids, so I'm coming.
Turkey wagon, you're in the back though.
You got anything big coming up, Anthony?
You know what? My wife would kill me if I don't say this, but I am having my second son on the way. He's coming in November.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm having 2 under 2. I don't really share my kids on Instagram because I'm finding more formula than anything. So I'm on YouTube, but they'll come eventually. But that's the big news I have coming up so far. Car related wise, I'm scratching my head right now because I have all the parts from my old car to put on, but I don't know, should I put them on because a GM dual warranty, they say, for track purposes, but then again, I might say, what's a warranty? And have fun.
What about you, Chris? What do you got going on, buddy?
Winter's coming up, so the car's going to be getting put away soon.
Don't say that. Don't say that. That's why I didn't say it.
I just say check out Muscle Cars and Trucks. We got lots of news that's coming out. A lot of Dodge stuff was out. They're doing a new Mustang reveal here soon. I don't care about. I'm the Camaro guy, so that's.
Are you guys growing is there a priority in growing the YouTube channel, or are you kind of sticking to your web-based stuff as well?
So right now we're doing the website with the articles and stuff like that. We are going to be branching out. There's a little bit of TikTok and there's Reels right now where I think Manny's doing some stuff and I'm copying him to TikTok when he's out doing testing and stuff, fun stuff with cars and stuff like that. So
yeah, we put Muscle Car and Truck up on our feature support section on the YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to go there and subscribe, and then if you want to see Chris on Facebook, his Camaro show is there, and you can follow him and on musclecarandtruck.com as well. So we got a big push to get Matt to 100K. So
one day.
I think it's going to come sooner than you think, buddy.
It's going to come soon. I think you know this.
Read this.
There it is. Hey, send me that book. I need that.
I think
you're there, Matt.
You're at 78 or something.
I'm knocking on the door at 78. I think. It's been a minute.
I think you're.
I try not to look because I get more excited when I stumble upon it. I'm like, oh my god, it's at 77. It's 777 right now. There you go.
That's a good number.
Very good number.
That's a good number.
Very good number. Yeah.
What do you got going on, Matt?
Well, we gotta. So I've been recording a lot of videos that I haven't released. As my mom passed away almost a year ago, and I basically told myself I just needed to take a big break, and so I did. I've been focusing on myself. I don't know if you guys noticed, I'm a little bit skinnier in the face. I've lost 90 pounds.
Good, wow, good job.
So I'm focused now. I'm trying to get a little buffer, like get some muscles going, But for me, it's kind of getting back on track. Yes, I'm going to be doing some older school content, second gen stuff. I've been really enjoying making those videos just because there's nothing out there, and I know there's a lot of guys out there that have projects sitting in a garage that need love and they just don't know where to pick up at. So I'm hoping maybe if I can get 5 people to finish and restore their cars alongside me, awesome. Like, I feel like that would be a great win in my book. But I think long-term future, it's really just waiting to see what GM's doing. Is there going to be an EV? If so, I have my GM points ready. I am trying to get to a point where I can buy a car with my GM points, and it's going to be glorious. Like, no joke. Everything I spend money on, it could be my paying for my medical insurance to car payment. It all goes through my GM card. I need if it's going to be a high-end ZL1, I need like 70 million points. So it's going to happen. And I'm going to make a great video about buying a car with GM points. It'll be fun. But I think my future also holds restoring a 69 Camaro, like something really fun that I'll make probably a autocross style car. So not go to the extent that I did on my 71. I don't think I'll ever do that again. Like restoring a car ground up to be like to the quality that I've gotten my 71 to. I never realized how expensive that can get, and I don't recommend anyone doing it unless they really want like a show quality car. But I would really like to have kind of like my high school car that I had, a 69 Z28, just with the cowl hood and just grunting and pissed off and fun to take around a autocross track. And it's funny because I see Al he got that super rare, I forget what car was it, from Australia or wherever he got it from. Like I'm like, oh god, he's got the car that I want to do. But yeah, it's fun. So I'm gonna keep down the path of Camaro. I've talked about maybe switching over, like going heresy, get a Mustang and do a comparison. I can't bring myself to do it. I can't. So I'm going to keep down the path of Camaro until GM stops making them all together. And maybe I'll have a whole fleet one day of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. I already got the 2nds and the 6th covered. So I only got 4 others to snag over the years.
Are you going to make it to SEMA this year?
I would like to go.
Like Chevrolet's not going to be there. Ford's not going to be there.
I don't think we're going this year. Last year we went, and it was the shortest time I've ever spent at SEMA. We walked the entire show, including the new areas, and I think the most exciting thing was seeing the Hummers. Honestly, like if I look back, maybe the Hoonigan 3rd gen when they dropped the huge motor in there.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't really care about the Corvettes, so I was like, okay, yeah, Corvettes, they're sitting right there.
I'm not going this year.
But I'm it's not just GM. I think Ford pulled out too, didn't they? Like almost every big person pulled out. So makes me sad.
Ford, GM, yeah.
Just going back to what you were saying there, Matt. I don't know if you guys can see this yet. It should be coming up any second.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so we all have these aspirations about building cars and stuff. This was a daily driver for me, and it started to cost me a lot of money, and we decided to pull it off the road and redo it. And we kind of left the motor. It had a 305 in it. And we kind of just left the motor in it because we were just going to toot around in it. And then, I kind of got carried away, and my wife did the help with the design of the car. And it's got the club logo. I couldn't find. Didn't want to spend too much time, but it's got the club logo on the hood. And those are Ghost Flames. Then I started working on suspension. So I lowered it and stiffened it and this and that. And I got to the point where I didn't really want to drive it so the guy who airbrushed it ends up passing away. And I'm like, if this thing ever gets hit, I can never get it to match. Right. So then I was like, I got to the point where I really didn't want to drive it anymore. right? So, because I was too afraid of something happening to it, it wasn't really comfortable to go on long trips with. And it's just, you know what? I think if I'm going to buy another one, I'd rather just kind of like do it up, make it look nice, and maybe not go so extreme, right? But so for me, I think we just we got another video come out in a couple of days. I got some other stuff that I worked on in the past that I haven't released yet. Say for quieter times, but I kind of want to get back to what I started out with the channel, and that was trying to do more stuff to help people. And I think we do help people now, but it's, you know, we because we cover a lot of, you know, Camaro and Firebird, it's some videos aren't as popular as others, but this has been awesome. I would like to do this again, maybe over the winter. When we know more about what's going on for next year or whatever. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate it, guys.
I don't have winners.
Yes, no, I know that.
He's just rubbing it in.
I'm gonna be driving my cars every day.
In California, Matt, winter is coming.
Yeah, right. It's gonna be like Game of Thrones. All of a sudden, the ice freezes over. I mean, we had hurricanes and psycho fires. What's next? I mean, it's snowballs.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you very much, everybody in chat. If you guys want to chat behind the scenes there for a couple of minutes after we close, we can do that. But I want to thank everybody for showing up and sticking with us for 3 hours. It's been fun. It's been
a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Definitely.
It's a good time.
Honored to be talking among all these fine gentlemen.
Yeah, the honor's all mine. Hey, listen, I put it out there and I thought, well, hey, the worst they're going to do is they're going to say no. So,
just Joe. Joe's the one that says no all the time.
No, you know what? Joe was probably the only one that I thought, well, okay, I guess the first one went okay. He'll probably say yes to the second one. So. And so I said to Joe, I said, you know, I want to get some big guys here. Like, you know, like I said, I don't know. I said, you know, I don't know about Matt. You know, I said, you know, Matt's a pretty big channel. I said, Anthony, I think Anthony will be okay with it. I said, you know, Chris, I said, I need somebody big. And Joe goes, well, why don't you invite Chris? I said, Chris isn't coming on here. I said, you know, Chris hasn't got time for me. He's got other things he's got to do, right? He's like, no, don't worry. Like, you know, Chris is pretty cool. He'll come on. I'm like, all right, I'll send him an email or I'll message him, whatever. And so, thank you, Joe. That was your idea.
This is
You're
awesome.
welcome. And Chris turned into 3 hours. I'm sorry.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
The best story I have of Joe is literally Camaro Fest. I come running, or I'm sitting there drooling over his car as he's driving around the autocross track. And I'm sitting there, and he comes around from doing this lap because, like, I mean, I don't know how many laps you've done in your car at that point, anyways. But he rolls down the window and he's like, "Hop in," and I was like, "Really?" I don't know if you remember how I reacted, but I was like,
"Well, you drove around in your golf cart."
Oh yeah, we were chasing you in the golf cart. That's right, because we were showing the people the track.
And your friends with you. And I was lapping, and you guys, you must have seen it, had enough. You're going to go off, and you started driving away. And I told one of my helpers, I said, go flag him down, bring him back. And you were sitting there, and I just come on in, and you were so excited.
Oh my! It was like a kid in a candy store moment. And he's like, yeah, hop on in. And I was like, oh yeah, oh my god, and he just starts ripping it around the track, and he's like, dude, you could do this whole track in like second gear or whatever. I forget what it was. And he's like, I don't even have to brake.
I think the gimbal wasn't working on your camera.
Yeah, I had a retarded gimbal at the time, and like the gimbal was all going sideways. It actually made the ride look way crazier than it was. But dude, I remember going back to the hotel, uploading that video. Like, oh, I was heaven. I still thank you for that day. That brought so much joy to me.
I gotta be honest. So we do the track day, we do the autocross. I love giving people rides around that stuff because they don't have to do it in their own car if they don't want to, right? Because some people just they don't trust themselves. But it's just a riot to show people what these cars can do. And I'm not the best driver in the world, but even with me behind the wheel, like it's so much fun.
Yeah, that was a good time. Thank you again for that, because it's like in the back of my memory bank forever.
Hey, next year, show up, and we'll do NCM that time.
I haven't been able to make it early enough to make it to the MCM days, but I would love to be able to do that if I could pull it off. I may come this year without a car.
That's okay.
That's
so
okay.
because
we want you, not
because it's been 3. I've been able to make it 3 times, and every time I've just loved it. So, and sorry, this is turning into a promo for Camaro Fest, but rightfully so. It's just a great time. Like the after hours, all of the people, the crazy rev stuff, like
the rev parties, are what called it. At the 10.
Then you get the locals coming in trying to get everybody to race. I don't recommend doing that.
That scared me on my first time going though.
And I do believe the parking lot parties with everybody's lighting is what inspired the lighting package on the 6th generation Camaro.
And I don't get, like, I know a lot of people aren't built to travel the country. It's a different time these days, but me and my wife, we must have old school blood in us because we love traveling America. Like taking all the kids and just getting out, seeing all the different states and everything. And it's like beelining it out to Kentucky, hanging out with everybody. And then we took 2 weeks to get home. Like we just went everywhere, like checked out Iowa. We went to Montana. We went like, it's a great time. Like if you could seriously, like, I know they announced the dates well enough ahead of time to where people could set a time aside, like have like take a vacation and just 1, enjoy America, and 2, like if you have a Camaro, like it's probably one of the coolest things you could do in your Camaro, just cruising the country. Like it's fun. It's expensive, but it's fun.
It's fun. And look up between our Facebook page, the website, the forum, find a Camaro van.
Yeah. Group up with other people.
There's tons of
riot too.
My first year, I made a big mistake trying to get people to meet up, and then we had the blowouts, and then it just threw off our schedule, and like arriving at places at 2 a.m. when we were supposed to be there like at 7 p.m, you know, and it was like that was a mess. But
I know when we went to homecoming, our Camaro van was larger than our cruise at our tent show. There was 53 cars in a caravan going to homecoming to come in all together, and that was phenomenal. But there's all kinds of them. I mean, hey, you know, Joe and I have done a lot together, and we're a proud supporter of Camaro Fest, and we are going to continue to be a proud supporter of Camaro Fest to help promote the show and all that. So don't apologize. I mean, you know, Joe's been good to me, and I'm going to be good to Joe, and so yeah, we want to promote Camaro Fest, and they put the dates up enough, right? So yeah, but like Joe said, get part of a van going, and you can, you know, even that's the exciting part. But most of the shows are like that. Even with the nationals that we used to go to, the after hour parties were usually better than the stuff during the day, right? It's more laid back. So
yeah,
I think the hard part for me, and I got to figure out how to do this. And Joe, maybe we could do something cool. Like I have a lot of kids I'm bringing, and the later night stuff isn't so kid friendly, or maybe we could find a way to like tap into like babysitters that can come, like, you know, like help watch kids, so my wife can come down and actually participate, you know, like, I don't know. That's something dumb. I'm throwing it out there, but you know, maybe something to think about.
Maybe.
I know there's lots of ladies and stuff that love my wife and probably have nieces and stuff that could probably help us with our kids. So maybe that will work, but you know, could be something to think about. And I don't know if you ever thought about how to handle families that are bringing kids with them.
I haven't. I know there's a water park right next to the drag.
There is. The kids wanted to go last year, but I made them sweat and die at the booth.
Okay, guys. So I think we're going to close it off tonight. 3 hours, 17 minutes. Truly phenomenal. So thank you guys for sticking with us. I guess, you know, I mean, we could talk all night, but I'm just.
I know what's the problem. It's only 8 o'clock here. What's going on?
Ready for my bedtime. You know, I'm seeing how I'm probably the oldest here, so I got Chris beat probably by a couple years, so maybe a year or two. But
I just turned 51.
Oh shit! Damn! So I'm not the oldest. I'm 49.
I told you I'm old.
Oh, okay. Okay, guys. So we'll say goodnight, and then we can chat in the background there for a couple minutes if you guys want.
All right.
We'll say goodnight to these guys, and we'll certainly do this again. So thank you very much.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.